More chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
It's Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Foden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Crumble for options, put it back to Morels. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morel. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal from Al Robson Cardiff! Folks, good wicket kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wondergate, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
Here's Mendy! There's that race-class roar again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of those recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. No Jamie this week, as he's having his cake shelf reduced, but in a week when two teenagers who filmed themselves urinating into a restaurant's hot pot broth have been ordered, along with their parents, to apologise and pay a fine of £227,000, Chinese state media has said. The pair, both 17, named Wu and Tang, no relation I'm sure, took turns standing on a table and urinating into the dish in a private dining room at a branch of a restaurant chain in Shanghai, state-run broadcaster CCTV News has reported. One of them posted the video on social media earlier this year, revealing it was an intentional act, and despite being fully aware of potential negative impact, CCTV News said, quoting a decision by Shanghai's Hongpu District People's Court. After the post went viral, the restaurant apologised about the incident and said it had destroyed and replaced all the affected utensils. The chain also refunded more than 4,000 affected dine-in orders and gave each customer extra compensation worth 10 times what they had paid. The teenagers and their parents were ordered to place apologies in designated newspapers to the catering companies, and the parents would pay a fine of 2.2 million yuan or £227,000, reports have said. I mean, we all get caught short from now and then, but I mean, that's a bit extreme. Mind you, one of my co-hosts has been in the Scouts, so they know exactly what piss soup tastes like. It's Taz.
Oh, yeah. No, why? Because I've been in the Scouts, has that even remotely?
Come on. You're trained to eat horrible things that make it go puke, or is that the army? I can never quite tell what the difference is.
Yeah, it's such a close border, isn't it, between the Scouts and special forces and stuff like that. So,
yeah, the Scouts kill more people. I know. Anyway, as you have seen, no Jamie this week, and I don't want to put too much stress on Daz because he's an old man, and he's not as young as he once was. So we decided to bring in a ringer, a specialist. So we pushed the budget out massively. And for 2 packets of Jammy Dodgers and a can of Tizer, we've managed to get somebody super special. From the Racecourse Ramble, you all know, of course, it's Matt. Hello, Matt.
Where's the Tizer? I didn't see this can of Tizer. I saw the Jammy Dodgers. Just saying.
How are you, Matt? Are you all right?
Long gone.
So you're finally taking... You're finally taking a peek
I'm to lower the tone this week, so you'll all be glad when Jamie's back next week.
Trust me, the tone you can't get much lower, to be brutally honest with you. But
really.
Welcome. We look forward to hearing your opinion on all the nonsense that we talk about, which is great. Going to start though this week on a bit of a serious news story that came across. On Saturday, it was announced that Matt Beard, who won back-to-back Women's Super League titles during his first spell at Liverpool in 2013 and 2014, had died at the age of 47. with the club paying tribute to a person of real integrity and warmth, and an extremely committed and successful manager. Since the tragic news broke, tributes have poured in from across the football world for the coach, whose career saw him manage 7 different clubs, including Millwall Lionesses, Chelsea Ladies, West Ham United Women, and Bristol City Women. Last month, he resigned from his role as head coach of Burnley Women after just 2 months in the job. News of Beard's death has stunned the world of football, with tributes being paid to him from Women's Super League matches all over the weekend. Liverpool's WSL game against Aston Villa was postponed in the wake of the tragedy, but other clubs took a part in a minute's silence. Tributes have been paid to Beard's heartbroken family, and his son Harry taking to social media to share memories of his father, with one post seeing him share photos of the two together. Another post featured a photo of him holding his father's hand, as he wrote, "Suicide is never the answer. Reach out, call 111 or 999. Please don't take your own life. We all miss you, Dad." As well as winning 2 consecutive WSL titles with Liverpool in his first stint with the club, he won the Women's Championship with them in 2022, having returned to the manager's job a year earlier. However, he was sacked by the Reds in February this year as the club sat 7th in the WSL. Tricky, really difficult on this, Daz. I mean, you know, even though it seems like a long time ago, you know, I still get upset by Gary Speed and who also took his life, and obviously with Matt being Liverpool manager, you know, incredibly sad. But what an incredible manager Matt Beard was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, you never know the sort of the truth and the depths of what's going on behind anybody's personal life and stuff like that. And in these jobs, they're so on display, aren't they? They're so there, and everybody feels they have a sort of a right to comment and to be part of it. And you just don't know how challenging it is. I mean, you know, the job itself, you know, what a challenge. I mean, yes, brought great success to Liverpool. You know, back-to-back title wins back when, and clearly was a well-respected and liked figure at the club. And of course, decisions are made to move players on, move managers on. You know, the times change, and we know that. And Wrexham's a good example of a club in transition. So things will always change, but it is hard, and it's performance driven and achievement driven, and it's really hard. But you know, clearly well liked. I mean, the responses, the reactions we've seen at all the clubs. Yes, there was postponements, but you know, since then they've had a League Cup game. So the outpouring just demonstrates what a wonderful man he was. I can't comment personally. I've never met him, and and all of that. I've never spoken to him, but you just know when the outpouring is like this. There was something very special about him. So a great loss to football and to the clubs that he's been involved with, but obviously more importantly than that, to his family and friends.
I mean, Matt, a number of WSL and ex-WSL players have come out this week basically saying about how much Matt had helped them with their career and what a great manager he was to play under. We know the scrutiny that managers, both in the men's and women's game, and at many levels, that they have, particularly in such a competitive game like football. And they're often treated, aren't they, the same as players, like machines. And they're not machines, are they? There is, mental health is a massive part and should be a massive part of the game, shouldn't it?
I don't think people realise exactly how little a life you have when you're in a role like he was, and the coaching roles and other managerial roles. Football seems like we all dream of being in it, but I think it's a pretty thankless machine that just spits you out at the end one way or the other, doesn't it? And it's really sad. And we have these periodically. We have this, don't we? We get a reminder of how we should be treating players, staff. I've got sympathy with him. My dad killed himself, without trying to lower the tone. My dad killed himself when I was in primary school. So I know what his family. I can sympathise with his family more than anything, I think. And they're in for a tough time, sadly. And I just hope that they've got good people around them. Get both professionally and just friends and family, because it will be tough. It does. They say time is a healer, but it doesn't heal very quickly.
Well, on behalf of all of us, obviously, our deepest condolences to Matt's family and friends and everybody. And I'm sure there will. The tributes have been huge this week, as rightfully so. And I think it's important that we don't forget that that these are people, and this is, and at the end of the day, it's a game we love, but it's just a game. At the end of the day, it's not that important. Certainly not compared to somebody's life. So, deepest condolences and thoughts towards his family. On another issue this week, BBC have launched an investigation this week into secondary ticket sales, websites that advertise tickets for, in their case, Premier League games, with many people taking a risk and paying highly inflated prices with no guarantee that the tickets are legitimate. They showed on theirs a man who flew all the way from South Korea, so 5,500 miles, to pay £900 for a single ticket for Brighton versus Tottenham, turned up at Brighton and was turned away because he said, no, your ticket's been cancelled, sorry, and no right of reply, no chance of getting in, no chance of getting his money back. There are a huge number of unauthorised ticket sites at the moment, particularly for Premiership tickets. And then, funny enough, Matt uncovered this week on his social media. If you go and find his social media on Racecourse Ramble, he's found that there is a site that is selling Wrexham tickets with a fantastic. If you want to go and sit in the temporary cop, it'll only cost you £184.33 for a seat. Well, seeing as there is no temporary cop, I think they must give you a camping chair and say good luck. Daz, first on the Premiership side, we know how difficult it is to get tickets. You said yourself, you go to Liverpool games very rarely because either you don't get the time or you can't get hold of a ticket. I noticed though today that Liverpool, literally today, have just cancelled 150,000 tickets that apparently have been sold on unauthorized ticket sites. How big? I mean, this sounds like it's been going. I mean, it's been going for a while. Ticket touting has been going for a while. Used to be though, the guy with the bag outside the ground would come up to you and say, "You need spare tickets." Yeah, that's what it used to be. But now it's gone on to a much bigger level, hasn't it?
Yeah, you knew who they were. You knew where to find them and all of that, and there was a certain amount of assurance, because back in those days you knew that even if you paid it, regardless of if it was ethically right or wrong, you tend to walk away with a ticket in your hand and you knew you're getting your seat. I think what's tragic about this current evolution of the version of it is that, first of all, it's a digital version, which means there's no hard product in your hand. There's no something tangible that you can go, I've bought it, I have it, I'm going to turn up and spend potentially, okay, I don't travel as far as a Korean fan might do, but the idea of traveling any distance and getting there and finding out you're turned away, the added cost of travel, the accommodation, the game day is not cheap anymore. I mean, we've talked about it several times, and it's a sad part of it. I appreciate if I lived in Wrexham or I lived in Liverpool, we'd be having a slightly different conversation. I am a fan that doesn't reside in those areas, so I have to plan accordingly. So yes, I have used those websites. There are a couple that are clearly more respected and more recognized, and they usually are held in Belgium or Netherlands and places like that, where the regulations are a little bit different, and I'm not saying it's right, but I feel more assured. But in looking for those websites, I found a lot more that were offering, I've got this one, and if you buy this one, it'll probably be in the cop, but we can't tell you roughly, but it'll be that end. And you just go, right, it feels loose. It just feels very sort of Wild West, sort of like you just don't know. And clearly the markups on all of these tickets, the face value is one thing, and then I am happy to pay a slightly overpriced ticket to get it, because I can.
Well, how much would a Brighton versus Tottenham ticket do you think would cost? What would it be, do you reckon?
Premiership tickets.
He's a Tottenham fan, but you can't guarantee he's going to be in the Tottenham end. He's probably just getting a general ticket as on the website.
Yeah, I mean, what?
Even if you're going mad, let's say it's £90, and it's not. So just to give you a context, Cymru versus England later next month at Wembley. That's cost me £90. So that's that's at Wembley, okay, and it is a friendly. Fine. So let's say it's £90. That's still a 900% markup, or 1,000% markup to get it to £900.
I just think, if people are prepared to pay those kind of figures, then I do think that they've contributed to part of the problem. I mean, when I bought the tickets, I'm talking about face value £60-70 and paying 100, 120, maybe 150 if I'm really pushing it. I'm not entirely sure in what world I would ever pay
No,
10
you are
times the
tight.
price. 25.
You are
Well,
tight, though, to be fair. You're a
yes,
Cardi boy, to be fair.
my Westphalian roots have taught me well, and even then,
Yeah.
me saying I'm prepared to pay £150 for a ticket, I've got family disowning me right now, and they'll
Yeah.
and I'm going to have a lot of explaining to do when I go back to Ceredigion.
Oh, your kid's going, that's our
my
future. That is, Dad.
inheritance.
You're wasting away. Exactly. You're an inheritance. Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, Matt, this is very, very relevant for Wrexham at the moment, obviously, with and we'll talk about the Cup a bit later on, which is, it's going to make this much worse. There is a big clamour for tickets at the moment. It's very, very difficult if you don't have a season ticket, and particularly if you live abroad or outside of the Wrexham area to get a ticket. The fact that this site has come online and is starting to gain traction, you know, people, you know, the reason why we're doing that is a massive message to everybody who basically wants to visit the racecourse and thinks, oh, I'm going to go on this website and whatever. You know, what's the message we need to send here?
Let's just start with can I just touch on the ethics of it? I'm really uncomfortable with people overpaying face value. I understand that we're all desperate to get to a game and stuff, but I don't know. I wish there was a better way of us being able to handle this across all, you know, concerts and everything, not just this, because my other half loves music concerts, and we've kind of been in the same boat when you're looking for resellers of tickets when you're desperate to go to a concert. And I know Ticketmaster have had to change some of their stuff today, haven't they, in the wake of what happened with Oasis?
Oasis,
it's not just football, just before people pile on, but. It's so difficult, and it's worse because do you remember the guy that was it a Canadian gentleman who had gone to social media and said he was going to pay, he paid £400 for his Wrexham ticket. Now, I never got to the bottom, or maybe you did, of whether that was genuine or not, but I hope not, for God, for crying out loud. It makes me skin crawl when we think about it. It's difficult because all you can say to people is get it from the right avenues, isn't it? And you try and, how do you tell somebody who's desperate to come over and visit and go to a game that you're unlikely to get a ticket? It's a bit, it's awkward, isn't it? It's just, but it is what it is.
Your partner you were saying to me before we started, you were saying your partner in crime has come up with a good idea, which
yes,
I think is
yeah. So I'll get to that. One of the things I would like to see the club do, that it dawned on me, it's very publicly, let's talk about this and tell people what to avoid. They can't tell them, obviously, the other avenues of getting tickets, reselling on Facebook and stuff like that does happen, which we'll talk about in a second. But tell people, name and shame these sites so that people avoid them at all costs. I'm told that they are investigating those ticket sites now, but what that investigation looks like, I couldn't tell you, but I'm told they're aware of it now and they're looking at it. Like Richie, who does the podcast with me, he came up with a brilliant thing when we went live last night. He said when he's trying to buy tickets, because he doesn't have a season ticket, so he's desperately scrambling around for as many as he can get, like everybody is. The main thing he says, if he finds somebody who's got a spare ticket, he asks them. In fact, you kind of have to do this now, even if you go to a shop. If you go to the club shop and try and move a ticket to somebody else because you're not competent doing it online, they ask you for the membership number of everybody involved. So the club are already onto this. But if you're buying a ticket off somebody, just verify, ask them for their membership number, go and put it into your network in the ticketing website, and make sure it comes up with that number and that person's name. That's giving you the best chance. It's not a guarantee, is it? But it's giving you the best chance of verifying that seller is real, and that ticket is seemingly genuine. I don't think we could guarantee it, can we? But that's the only thing as a check, that as like a little check and balance, I think you can do. But it's a problem across all sport. It'd be worse in the Premier League because of the numbers involved. I imagine that people are paying thousands for tickets, having spent thousands to get to Anfield as well, and what have you, isn't it? But you wouldn't think little old Wrexham would have this problem, would you? I couldn't believe it when I came across it.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that when I bought 4 tickets for the temporary Cup. I mean, I just thought, wow, it's incredible. The important thing is, obviously, definitely. Obviously, even when you're joining groups, I mean, you mentioned Facebook. You can't really trust Facebook, so be very, very careful on groups that you join, because there's no guarantee that the people on those groups are genuine ticket sellers. If somebody is asking as well for an inflated price, I think that you should definitely ask questions, because true fans, real fans, would never ever say, the ticket price on it says 26 and I want 90 for it, because then that's not true. They're not true fans, Good one is
sorry, I was going to say but a lot of the true fans though will do the sell back through the official exchanges. I know
absolutely.
Wrexham may not have one yet. I'm not sure.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
So
they have one.
That's a way of being truly open and honest, saying I just like my money back. I can't go. Give it to the club, and then the club can decide who gets it. Now you can then go down another rabbit hole about how that list is generated. I don't want to go there. That's not for me. But at least you can honestly say I didn't profiteer from this decision, and I think that those exchanges are really, really important.
So Saturday, I was stuck in Bovington Tank Museum in Devon. Don't ask. No phone signal, so I couldn't even listen to the game. This is how much I love my wife, and if you're listening, honey, I did that for you because it was your birthday, and that's how much I love you. She did say all day. She said, "Are you going to be able to watch the Wrexham game?" I said, "No." She was like, "Sacrifices you give for me." Incredible. But lots and lots of other people were enjoying the delights of Norwich, Carrow Road, where Wrexham took on Norwich City in the Championship. Matt, let's look at the lineup first. 4 changes from the game versus QPR. Hyam in for Cody, Kabore in for McLean, Longman moving over to the left wing to give Kabore the right wing, Sheaf in for James, and Windass back from injury in for Hardy. Any massive shocks in that starting lineup or delights for you?
There was lots of delight. I wouldn't say there was shock. I think it was kind of, it became obvious, I think, that it needed some change. Or maybe Connor Cody was a bit of a shock, because I didn't honestly think he would perhaps drop him, if I'm honest. I thought he would persevere with him, given his expertise and his experience. But I was delighted with it, and especially with how I don't know whether you're going to touch on this, with how it's set up, because it was slightly different perhaps to what we would have normally done.
Finally, somebody reads the script. Thanks, Matt, for that. It's appreciated. Thanks for that. Yes, no, you're exactly right. I mean, there was a slight change of formation where Parky meant a bit more to a box midfield and pushed more up front to create kind of 2 in the midfield to create that box. I mean, Daz, we've been screaming for years and years and years. Is Parky ever going to adjust his format? Is he ever going to change depending on what players he has or who he's playing against? So was it nice? And not that you watched it, of course, but was it nice that Parky actually, because he'd hinted about it earlier in the week, saying, we're going to look at it. So
no, I mean, well, I have watched a fair bit, probably because Jamie wasn't coming. I thought, you know what, I might just try and watch at least 5 minutes more of the game than I usually do. So I watched it, and I could see when they were lining up at the top of the game, and you're just thinking, like, it almost looked like a 3-2-5 at one point with the ball sort of sitting in the middle doing that, and yeah, very different. And I thought, well, being that he's got the personnel to do it now, then maybe that's the trigger he's been waiting for, is the players that he's always wanted to get, or maybe he's had the opportunity to get. I don't know if he's always wanted them. And then the fact that for a first time in a bit, I would say it feels like all the injury sort of situation is sort of, I don't know, settled, apart from a goalkeeper or whatever. But generally, he felt like he had a good opportunity to choose this formation, because he's now got the personnel, and this was an opposition worth trying it out. So yeah, it was really quite exciting to watch, and the way that it interplayed through together, I thought I was impressed with some of the tap and go, and it was really quite some intricate play. I thought it's not the long ball up front to Kiefer all the time, and it certainly wasn't relying on the wingers all the time. So it was quite refreshing, I thought.
Well, first half, Wrexham had chances, which we were kind of on the impression that Wrexham would play well, but ultimately this is Norwich, and we were expecting to get a bit more of a game. But Wrexham, did really well. I mean, Windass hit the post, more one-on-one with the keeper. O'Brien had a on-target free kick, forcing a fantastic save from the Norwich keeper. But Matt, the first one from us really was against the run of play, I would go far to say, on 39 minutes. Wouldn't you say that? Well, looking at the highlights and the full match that I've seen.
Yeah. and I was watching intently the replays to see whether he was onside or offside. It was inconclusive, but it was, and it was a bit of a sucker punch 5 minutes before half time as well. It was like, well, isn't I sort of sank in my chair. Well, isn't this typical? Like, just five. We've been really good, really positive. We were pressing really high, which Wrexham don't tend to do. And then we get that sucker punch where I think he's the right back who scores the goal. Dare I mention that I don't want to cause any upset here because I know we have goalkeeper conversations, but I would have liked Arthur to be a little bit quicker off his line. I would have liked us to have helped him out as well. I'm not just throwing Arthur in there, but I think he should have been a little bit quicker to come out. But still, it was definitely against the run of play.
I mean, I'm a big fan because you do. If you're a Patreon member, and if you go and find Racecourse Ramble, join the Patreon because you get many things you don't just. Matt doesn't just put out normally, and he does a fantastic review of the game from a tactical point of view, and does a step by step, slowing down videos, pointing out where the gaps were, where the problems were, which players were susceptible, which players were asleep, which players were in the wrong position, which players did well. Go and it's worth the money. It's worth the money just for that, because you won't get that anywhere else. Certainly not if you're a big Wrexham fan. It was very noticeable, wasn't it? The fact that Stacey beat that offside trap, and I agree with you. Lots of people were screaming he was offside. I don't think he was. I think he was just onside. But I agree. Okonkwo, and it is the problem I have with Okonkwo. He seems to retreat rather than come out. You see, we saw Ward when he was fit. He would always charge the player. That last goal versus Sheffield Wednesday that kept the draw, which they should have won. He closed that player down, and the player pooed his pants and hit the ball straight at him. But he had a very limited angle because Ward had gone up to him and really closed him down. And as you said, you really would like to see Okonkwo do more of that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's definitely an area of his game that he's always, while he's been with Wrexham, it's always been a weakness. He's got a little bit of indecision, and he gets a bit worried when he gets too far out of his goal. And I would love to think that they're working on that in training with him, but periodically it does rear its head. So that's what makes me a little bit concerned. But as it happened, it didn't cost us. And you can still argue about, was it offside or how do you stop the pass in the first place? But ultimately Arthur is there to save our backsides, isn't he? And just a little bit slow on that one for me.
Are you surprised, as a guy the size that he is and the physical presence that he must be is a little bit reticent not to come out? Or is it, obviously he's been injured, hasn't he? Because he's had wrist and hand injuries. Yeah. Is there something going on inside that you?
Oh, I don't doubt for one second that every day he thinks there's a risk to his injury, because when you get an injury, or you get your recurring injuries, anybody who's got sort of like a history will always. Most people, not always, but most people will have that worrying thought in the back of their minds. And I do think that mentality sometimes makes you more susceptible. I think when people say when they don't care and they're bolden and everything like that, they tend to not have those issues. It's because it's the hesitant ones, and they're not bracing themselves, or there's something psychological about that, and you're more susceptible to the injury. But actually, I think the key thing for me is that, yes, you're saying he's a big guy, but Ward is a big guy. What I mean is that when somebody's that broad coming straight at you, square on, and it's just big, he's going to be able to get, he's going to be more imposing. And whereas there's something more, streamline about Okonkwo. He might have the height, but I don't know whether or not he feels as dominant, and he certainly doesn't hold his position, because the board comes out and he literally, he's like a silverback gorilla coming out at you, just going like massive, sort of, scary. And you're right, you would shit your pants. I would, but it's the idea that he comes out and you're going to go, right, you can lob me if you want. You can lob me if you want. I'm going to come out at you. And if you've got the skills to do that, congratulations. You've got to still complete that. Whereas what Okonkwo's doing now is kind of going like, well, I am a good shot stopper, but with the finishers, and we keep talking about this is another level. You may have had it in previous divisions, another level. These guys know how to finish. And also they finish close to your body, so you can't get down quickly enough and all of that. So I think if he thinks he can rely on that, and has done for quite some time, I'm not sure if he's got that as an option anymore, because everybody is so much quicker and better. And I just think coming out, forcing the strikers to make decisions, and that's the other thing. You give them so much more time to think. They set themselves up, put it on their strongest foot, take it in their stride. Whereas if you charge them, you're forcing them to make a decision quick and make it now. And are you going to square it? Are you going to lob it? And more often than not, it hit the straight at the keeper. And then you've done your job. And you think the number of times Allison, Danny Ward, the games that I watch all the time, these guys come charging out, they make themselves big, and everyone says like Allison's one of the best. No, it's because he comes running out at you, and he's forcing the odds in his favor, and that's all he's doing.
Plus, you hate keepers, so we all know that. So Wrexham went in 1-0 down, obviously. Interesting, Matt, that Parky made a change at half time. Now, at the time, Brunt obviously was brought on for Doyle, and we were thinking, and there were rumours, weren't there, that, Doyle, may have pulled a hammy, may have had a knock. But as we'll talk about later, then Doyle started versus Reading. I mean, why do you think he made that change?
So I asked the same question on the podcast that we did last night. And I in the chat, somebody told me that post-game, in the wraparound that he does with he does an interview post-game, doesn't he, with Chris Malaband and Andy Morrell and stuff. Apparently, he did reference the yellow card that Doyle was on.
Right.
And said that had become a concern for him. So whether that's the truth or not, I don't know. But because I assumed that in real time, I thought he'd pulled him because he was struggling, to be honest. That was my gut feeling at the time. But then I saw the rumours that you did about an injury. And then obviously that seems, like you said, rules that out, really, doesn't it? I don't think you'd have played him if you had anything. No. So he referenced the yellow card. I think it was a concern for him, to be honest. I think, he saw him as a bit of as just having not a very good game and thought, I'm going to shore it up.
But it turned out to be okay, because I know people have had their doubts about Brunt. And again, we'll talk about the Reading game where Brunt was superb on Tuesday night, but Brunt came on, did his thing. And then you look at the stats that I've got in front of us there. Norwich had 61.7% of the possession, apparently. But for that second half, Wrexham absolutely ran the roost by the looks of it. I mean, they absolutely battered them and dominated them for at least 30 minutes. And then, of course, the 47th minute, Matt, I'll let you describe the goal from when Sheaf picked it up on the left wing, because for me, this is beautiful football that, as a Wrexham fan, you just love to see.
Yeah, I'll be interested in your opinion on whether we could have done that without the players that we've got now.
No.
But regardless of that, maybe. So Sheaf obviously rakes what must have been a 25-yard pass out over the top of a couple of defenders to the right-hand side, where a galloping Kabore obviously sprints up the byline, puts in a lovely, it might have even nearly been first-time ball that Windass sweeps home very comfortably. No, there's no panic, there's no drama. He looks in total control of it. But the interesting part for me, I don't want to keep referencing videos and stuff, but when I watched the replays back, we got a very interesting movement from Windass, that he stands very Premier League striker, like he's standing miles offside initially when the first pass is played to drag, he's trying to drag the defenders back actually, but obviously he's not active at that point, and I think that's a whole other debate from football gone of the bygone eras, where if you were offside, you were offside, weren't you?
Offside, yeah, absolutely.
But you're not anymore. And he played. I've never seen any of our strikers do that before. To play, he's 5 or 10 yards. I can't even remember how far off he is.
This is what I was going to ask you, because it's funny you say would the current players, because we both remember the move at Blackpool where Dobson put a very similar. He was more central, but a very similar cross. So maybe Dobson would have played that bit, but it would have gone to Barney or Longman. And the problem with those two is they can't hit it first time. They've got to take the ball and shift it around and do something and try and beat the opposition that way. And then you're asking them to put it into the middle. And how many? Because this isn't Windass's normal position, isn't it? He doesn't normally play this far forward. So we're relying on our strikers. Are our strikers intelligent enough to do that? So it's the same question I was going to ask you. If it wasn't for Sheaf and Kabore and for Windass, would that move have worked?
Yeah, I sort of swapped them out. I was like, Matty James, can Matty James play that ball? He probably can. I think he can. I think I've seen a couple of balls that he's played to Sam Smith that are similar, and I think he can. But after that, I think in my head it breaks down. Then I don't think we can quite utilize the speed of which that happened. And I get what you're saying about Windass, because I always assume that he's that player 10 yards further back, perhaps, than Kiefer Moore. But yet there he was with the movement of that type of player. And that's what amazed me when I watched it back on video, was that he was there playing the game, as I guess they would call it. But it was prime Parky ball, wasn't it? It was ruthlessly efficient, and outperforming XG. All the things, I know you love XG on here, so we'll talk a bit about XG. Totally outperforming XG, which is what Phil Parkinson loves to do, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I was going to say, I think in terms of, as much as it's Parky ball route one, the route one that we're normally familiar with is sort of down the middle, hitting the big man in the middle, whether it's Ollie Palmer in the past, whether it's Kiefer Moore. What was so stunning about this was that it was more cultured than that. Sheaf's pass, I think, like I said, it was probably about a 25-yard gain in terms of pitch territory, but the pass itself is like, I don't know, 60 yards or something like that. It's diagonally across. It's like a Steven Gerrard sort of,
I knew you'd bring up a Liverpool player. I knew it.
It was either going to be him or Virgil. I went old school. But it's a proper cultured pass, and the way it splits that defense is incredible. I mean, and it's not even like you think like, oh, maybe he was aiming for a player that was near. No, there's nobody else there. That is the only player he could have picked out. So it's definitely for him. And you're right, that first time touch, I'm not sure your Maxes or your I don't know, even Longman or anything like, the current team now still. I think there's only a couple of players that would just be so super confident to hit it that first time. It is very cultured, and every part of that stage was, it was a glorious goal. Really, really impressive.
Well, it seemed to knock the wind out of Norwich. I don't think they were expecting it at all, because then 54 minutes, Kabore again with, a fantastic cross from the right across the box. Seems to miss everybody, including most of the Norwich defence. And then up pops Longman on the edge of the box, smashes it in, fires it past an unsighted keeper. And then 59 minutes, a long cross from the right to the far side of the box. I was cursing Max, saying, would you please just put it in the middle, stick it in the bit where all the players are, instead of overhitting it like you seem to do all the time. However, Windass grabs it, he turns his defender beautifully, comes slightly inside and just curls it into the top corner like he's walking the dog. And by that point, with 3-1 up, you could pull me off the ceiling, because I am massively excited. I think with kind of 10 minutes to go, Norwich then suddenly woke up and went, yeah, hang on, this isn't in the script. The fans were absolutely getting on their backs. It was horrendous. It must have been horrendous for them. They were proper battering us for the last 10 minutes. And then 92 minutes, obviously, Norwich shot, parried into the box by Okonkwo. Makama pounced on the loose ball, poked it in. Daz, could Okonkwo have done better? I'm going to ask you, because you love keepers.
Probably. I mean, I think it's more of the same. I still think that it's the decision making that he's got a lot to learn. And I think we know he's got skills. He's got good reaction time. He's got the size and everything like that. I think Jamie still thinks his kicking out and everything like that. I think his decision making is the thing that's the part that will, once he gets that right, whether it is to come forward, whether it is to track back, whether it is to just come and claim and take every player out in the way as and I think that's part of the problem, is that I don't know if it's his inexperience, I don't know if it's his age, is it the fear of injury. I think he's got a lot to work on there, I think.
I mean, Matt, he's susceptible to this, isn't he? Putting it back into the danger zone rather than either gathering it or pushing it away. He's done it before, and at times there've been criticism of defence, haven't they, saying, well, why don't they react quicker? But they, and to be fair, you did point it out when you did your review, saying Brunt was asleep. He didn't see the guy Makama on his back. Makama then just pretty much pushed past him and put it in. I mean, is this a problem with the Conco? Is this a problem with the defence? Is it a mix of the two? Which one is it?
So, sorry for repeating myself. I know you're bored of hearing it because you hear this every week. So apologies for this.
I'm never bored.
But on average, there is 3 mistakes lead to a goal, right? So if you watch it back, let's stop the shot. Arthur has to deal with it better, and the defenders then have to follow it in the same way the striker followed it in. Because the striker, if I remember right, the striker is about 2 yards behind Brunt at the time that the ball is hit. But because his instinct is to follow it in, he just wanders past Brunt, doesn't he, and taps in eventually. So what I'm trying to do is not throw too much shade on Arthur. Although maybe there'll be a question after, given that what Brunt has sort of Burton, has sort of done last night.
Yep.
But he has done this before. It's definitely something he can work on. But also his teammates can help him. So stop the shot and follow it in and help me out. There is an element of that. For me personally, there's 2 other things that we can do, but I totally accept. And I think if you asked Arthur, he would look back at it and go, I should have either held it or I should have palmed it away. Normally they say away at sort of nearly 45 degrees, away from your goal and away from the central area where all the trouble is, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty sure he would have said in hindsight that he should have done a bit better with it. So I don't think you're being unfair by asking the question.
So Wrexham managed to hang on, though, for a 3-2 win. They finished the week 16th in the Championship with 7 points, which is, if we can stop the season right now, I'll take that without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Matt, let's look at some of the players, and both Daz, your thoughts on how you thought they played. Let's look at Chief. Obviously, he had that cross. What was your kind of general thoughts about the rest of his play?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about Ben Sheaf. I've known about him for a long time, since he sort of got kicked out of Arsenal, really. I think he's but let's bear in mind he needs game time to get fully fit. So let's caveat this. But I think he will give us Matty James's intelligence, but with the mobility of somebody like a George Dobson. He's gonna be a bit of a game changer for us. I thought his all-round play was pretty tidy. He looked like he does need a couple of games, but when you see flashes like that pass, and like the way he can break up play without having to dive in and tackle, he's quite modern like that. He can break up play. I'm really excited. I thought he had a really good game.
Daz, Kabore, obviously on loan from Manchester City. We've been quite blessed with right wingers, with Longman, Barney. There have been others, obviously, but they've kind of ruled that roost, certainly from last season. However, this guy's come on, and I would say he's quite a shift in sea change compared to Barney and Longman. I mean, do you kind of go, if you were Barney or Longman, you're thinking, okay, maybe I'm not going to be first choice anymore?
That's a real risk. I mean, okay, their one hope is the fact that he's on loan, so this might just be an interim situation. So it could be as short as the next window. They could recall him back in the City, I guess. But ultimately, it's a season-long loan, so it's not a permanent fixture. Although the team that you play and play around him is going to start getting used to him, and you're going to probably want to keep him because he seems very special. But then there's a reason why he's at Man City then in the first place. Whether it's good coaching, whether it's good scout, strength across the board, and also young players, aspiring players. They want to be playing at teams like Man City, so of course they're going to get the pick of the crop. So they've got clearly some talent there that, and they didn't sell him. They don't want to sell him, so they probably either rate him or they're hoping to get a bit more from him. So that had all the indicators that that he could be special. Now we didn't know that when he arrived. I say I'm not aware of the city academies or anything like that. So I don't see these players coming through, but clearly he's very special, and he's already, like you said, lifted. There's a whole shift, a level change in what he's giving you options for and what he can do. But that pace is electric, and as wingers need, all wingers will have that. But then there's also still grades of electric, isn't there? And he seems very special. So enjoy him once you've got him, because I just don't know how City are going to release him without it being a sizable fee.
Dom Hyam, Matt. Now, we were kind of expecting him, weren't we, to take Max's position. But on Saturday, he played central midfield, replacing Cody. I mean, I think he did incredibly well. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I was. When he first arrived, I thought he was going to be battling with Max for that right-hand spot. I thought Cody was probably going to be nailed on because of the investment in him. I'm first of all, let's give Phil Parkinson a little bit of credit, because that was a big call to make with an experienced pro. Wouldn't have been a very easy conversation, would it? No. Afterwards, so I think he deserves some credit for that. And I thought Dom Hyam, I thought we were less open than we had been. So I think it was mission accomplished, if I'm honest. And I think Connor Cody will have to work hard to get back now into the side. So we weren't perfect, but I thought he was really tidy. He's obviously vastly experienced. I think if he wasn't captain, he has been captain at Blackburn. So I think, he's got those traits and some of those leadership skills that Connor Cody would have given you. And obviously he knows the league, which obviously helps massively, doesn't it? But no, I thought he did his work really tidy, and we looked less open. So I think they will put that down as a big tick and go, right, we're on the right path here.
Now, Windass does. Obviously, he's been injured with his hamstring. Scored 2 goals. Was many people's man of the match, including the official man of the match. Great that we're not relying on Moore. So, how important is it now that we keep Windass fit?
I mean, you want to keep all your options as fit as possible. There's, that's the obvious and simple answer, really, isn't it? Because if you've got the options, then you've got that flexibility, and he is a different type of player. Like you say, he sits deeper. I mean, his third goal, he seemed to have drifted out onto the left, and they seemed to be wide open. And so he looks for space. So he's a very different kind of player. Whereas obviously Moore is front line, holds the line. You aim for him over the top, whatever that is. But I think we shouldn't forget the other signings that you've got, and one particularly makes a particular showing for himself against Reading later in the week. So I don't think it's as crucial as it may have been earlier, and before all these signings. Certainly at the end of last season, I think you've got a little bit more depth, but all it takes is one injury. Windass has been out, so we know that he's. Hamstring injuries are synonymous with reoccurring. So you've got to be really careful with that. So if he's had that problem once, then is there a chance you can, he'll go again? So having as many different types of options as possible, I think it's nice to have ones that could drop into the same position, so you don't have to completely wholesale change, formations just because you bring on a substitution. Because like bringing a Windass on for Moore is a very different way of playing than saying, bringing more on for Ollie Palmer would have been. You know what I mean? It's so when you've got those patterns and the way that it's set up, bringing familiar players or players of a style, that's helpful. But actually for your opponents, it's quite good for your opponents to be a little bit off guard, going like, well, we're not entirely sure which version of the attacking formation we're going to get, and options give you that flexibility to surprise them.
Last word to you on this one, Matt. There has been a lot of clamour, which has particularly annoyed me before the game, of all these people jumping on the bandwagon saying Phil Parkinson out of his depth. Phil Parkinson's no good at this league. Phil Parkinson should be sacked. Phil Parkinson, questions from the club. Blah, 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 blah. All this absolute horse shit that has been going on by a huge number of people. Some of them have their own agendas with regards to, they don't want to see Wrexham be anywhere near successful or succeed in any way, shape or form, because according to them, we are a carbuncle on the face of football. Again, I don't know what game they're watching or what game they're involved in, but they need to, I think, look inside their own houses before they start looking inside our house. That's my soapbox bit is done. How much will this performance on Saturday quieten the unruly noise and unnecessary noise there has been around Phil Parkinson and the side during the previous week?
I think it will, because it's I don't know. Even though Norwich have been a bit dodgy at home, I think it was still an unexpected win for most people outside of Wrexham, perhaps, who wouldn't have been expecting that. But I still think it's external noise from people, from clickbait accounts, really, is all it actually is. I think that's basically what you were hinting at. I'm adamant that internally Wrexham, it meant nothing. All that chatter meant nothing to Wrexham. They know exactly where they are. They know exactly what they're expecting, and they were probably expecting a tough start. And I don't think. I know Parky doesn't. He's not on social media, so he doesn't see any of it. So it was external noise from people who don't really matter. I know every time we lose a game, if you go onto social media, there are some Wrexham fans that will put Parky out and perhaps, and that type of thing. But they're there for every manager, probably, aren't they? There's always some of them. But I'm mad. It'll quieten them down for now. But then if they lose to Derby, will they not? Do you not think they'll stick their heads up again and say, "Look, we told you. There's a way to spin this all the time, isn't there? Until Wrexham pull away, win 10 on a bounce, and then they'll be shut up."
But the annoying thing about this is it will those people will be saying Phil Parky's not great at this position. Phil Parky's out of his depth. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
we'll then start to put on performances. Phil Parky will do what he did on Saturday. He'll tweak. He'll get those players bedded in, and they'll say, "Oh well, you expect him to win because he's got £30 million of the players." You can't win. You can't win with these people. There's no sense of reason. If I look at another team and I see that they're playing well, they're well structured, the management is good, they may have the occasional blip, I'll always go, "Oh no, well done to them, brilliant, that's really, really good," because I'm a lover of football, the game of football. But these people don't seem to love football, they just seem to hate anything that's not their club, and I just can't get that in my head. I don't know what
You're the exception and not the norm. I think that's the problem.
I know, but you got to look at it this way: Delia Smith, Stephen Fry, Hugh Jackman, your boys took one hell of a beating.
Jake Humphrey. Love it.
Well, Sunday saw Wrexham Women go across the border to Park Hall to take on TNS in the Adram Premier League. And it wasn't the result any of us were expecting, as you can imagine, with the fantastic start we've had this season. Let's look, first of all, at the TNS lineup, Daz. Only one change. Karen Allen coming back in for Nat Clark, who apparently had picked up a knock during the week. Although there was, and I'll get Matt's take on this, because depending on who you speak to, some people were saying they were playing a back four, some people saying, no, they were playing a three with the extended. I'll get your take on that in a second, Matt. With that lineup, though, just one change. No surprise for you on that one, Daz?
Say that again. Sorry.
No change on the lineup, but the fact that they've only changed one person, and that's a forced change. You're not thinking, oh, maybe we should bring in to start, for example, or
well, we're obviously fans of it. I think has probably earned a place in the team as a first, as a starter. But what the club has done in the transfer window or the early stages of this pre-season and was bringing a lot of players around that position. So she's no longer first choice, which is odd when it's your player of the season and all sorts. So she's got a tough battle ahead, but she's a class act and has come on and made impacts and stuff like that. So I think the team that started previously was a strong team. Like you said, forced change anyway was the only change. But we've got some really strong players in there now, and I think the formation and stuff. well, let Matt describe it, but I'm not entirely sure Wrexham knew what their formation was to begin with that first goal. To be honest, it just seemed.
I mean, were they playing a back four or back three, Matt? Because you were there.
Definitely a back three.
Right. Okay. There you go. So yeah, depending on who you speak to.
I will explain. I will embellish on that. Phoebe Davis played on the right. Karen Allen came into the middle, and Jodie moved to the left. And that's I was a bit surprised at. I thought Jodie was so dominating in the middle. I thought she might have retained that spot, but she didn't. She definitely brought Karen Allen into the.
Does that mean Karen maybe can't play on the wings and has to play in the centre? Because she played centre last season, didn't she, when she was starting on a regular basis? So maybe that's what it was.
Whether she can't, it's you'd need to see them in training to rule them out, wouldn't you? But you know.
Anyway, certainly not the start. I mean, Wrexham looked a little bit lost at times. A lot of the passes weren't going where they were supposed to go. The kind of normal silky, smooth play that you normally get was stalling at points. TNS, and I don't agree with this stuff. Some people were saying online, oh, TNS wanted it more. I didn't believe that for a second. I think you can play what's in front of you, and I think TNS just played their game. I just think TNS clicked and we didn't. I think it was as simple as that. Don't know why, and as I say, you would have to ask the players why they were maybe off pace. But 11 minutes, Chapman shot from the right into the box. It bounced in front of Craven in goal and in. Craven looked as she was unsighted. Daz, I don't want to paint you into a corner, but I'm gonna.
No. She was unsighted. She could have done better, but it's impossible to know how much better she could have done because she was unsighted. So it's a bit unfair. But the lead up to that it was like runners make finding space. It was so disorganized that actually she didn't have much of a chance.
And there was lots of that. 16 minutes again. Chapman totally and utterly beat a flat-foot Wrexham defence. Slotted the pass through to Tier. Tier was one-on-one with Craven. Craven did her best to try and close down, but Tier put it in. I mean, 2-0 up at that point, Matt. Were you kind of, what were you surprised? Were you as surprised as I was watching at home?
Yeah. So although we hadn't got going, I didn't also think that there was wave after wave of attack coming that they looked particularly dangerous. They were just ruthless when they got those chances. I have different feelings on the other goals, but I will sit on my hands on that one. But yeah, but that knocks the stuffing out of you. Then you can go 1-0 down and recover.
Yeah.
But then you're 2-0 down away from home, and you can barely string 3 passes together. You're in for a tough afternoon, then, don't you?
Absolutely. But Wrexham continued to struggle in that first half. They did have some chances, but they didn't really test the keeper, including hitting the post on 32 minutes, which was really, really close. And I think normally Ava Suckley, you would think, would put it in, but I don't think she saw it coming. I think it kind of bounced around and bounced off her, and she didn't even pay much attention to it, unfortunately, which was a bit of a shame. 38 minutes then. Iddington came on for Cara Jones. Why do you think that was, Matt? Why do you think that she made that change so early?
So I'm guessing. I have to sort of say that. And the way Cara Jones sort of slumped down into her chair was that of somebody that was annoyed at being substituted. So if I'm wrong about that, apologies, but that's how it appeared. When you're watching and you're looking for signs, I think Abby Iddington might be our best central striker because she holds the ball up really well. She can do a little bit of magic to beat a player or two if you need her to buy a bit of time. And I think Ava Suckley is more suited to the wide areas personally. So I just think she saw the opportunity to make a change and perhaps try and sneak a goal before half time. But it didn't, obviously, and it did happen. But obviously, we kind of very quickly give them the advantage back post the half-time whistle. So I'm just going off what I could see, because obviously we don't know, do we? And I couldn't hear Mark Griffiths' commentary, whether he had any extra insight that I didn't have. But she looked really fed up when she sat down, like somebody who's just been taken off and is like, why me?
Well, I mean, again, Wrexham were trying, but 41 minutes, an absolute gut punch. way too easy. It just seemed like the Wrexham couldn't put any tackles in. Cross from the Wrexham left into Chapman, open in the box. To be honest, was she offside? Question mark.
In real time, I thought the pass out wide was offside, but when I've watched it back in replay, it doesn't look like that, or it's not conclusive. So it was really hard to tell. And I don't want to be rude to the officials on your podcast. I'll save that for my podcast. But to be honest, he looked like he was going home to fix his Airfix kits and play with his train set. So he was not convincing me as a liner, despite my free coaching that I was giving him.
Excellent. I'm sure it was very vocal, to say the least. Wrexham did manage a chink of hope, a chink of light in hope on the second minute of injury time in the first half. Mahmoud with a solo run, fantastic pass forward, solo run, beats the defence, puts it in the goal to make it 3-1. Daz, 3-1 at half time. You kind of thinking, well, we've seen this Wrexham before because we saw it in Britain Ferry. You know, we came back versus Barry. Were you expecting Wrexham to come out, with a bit feisty and get the grip of this game?
Well, I mean, it certainly couldn't get any worse because I do think, that first half, after all the positives that we'd been lauding on them recently and the positive displays, and scoring comfortably and just gelling of the new players into the formations, that you've got this old guard and the new guard coming together, and it seemed to be working really well. So they were just absolutely of sorts. But I will say that my thought on that first half was, and for all of those goals against, the common theme for me is the defense just looked slow, static, just set, and it just felt like there was no energy. And every time those strikers broke the line, they were never being caught. The winger comes through the cross. There's a player in the box completely unmarked because the line just can't keep up. And whatever the next phase of the rebuilds of this team needs to be, I think it's pace at the back, because they just seemed so static. It was very uncomfortable.
Are they suffering from the Phil Parkinson problems, i.e. you're playing almost a back five and your wingers are not defending enough, is the question, Matt?
So it's a philosophical question for the manager, that, isn't it? Because we need to understand whether that is something that she is asking and expecting them to do. I understand the question. The idea with playing three at the back, you see, the theory is you've got numbers there anyway, so that if you do get overloaded, you have got an extra body than normal. And remember, your midfield can come back and help you as well. So that's part of the theory of why people play with wing backs or wide midfielders, depending on how you view them. But I understand the question. I'd love to be able to ask Jenny Sugarman some of these questions as well, I should add.
I did ask her when I spoke to her if she would ever think about coming on the pod, and she just looked at me and smiled. So yeah. I'm going to take that as a no.
To be fair, that's not because of it. That's probably not her decision. She's probably already been told you can't speak to anybody.
Yeah.
Or especially stay away from Jamie, and that there's probably some court order.
Yeah. He's not allowed. He's not allowed within 10 feet of women. We know that. That's fine.
You got a restraining order.
But can I'll answer your question though, so in the sense that the back three, when you're saying did the wing backs come back and add that extra bit of defense, that's only a problem if the defense is being overrun by whether it's two runners and then a midfield overlap.
Yeah,
the three weren't dealing with the one they had.
Right.
That's my issue. I know the wingers were. It was obviously the midfield. I think it's that middle central area that actually they just felt so exposed in the middle of the park. So yes, you can ask them to come back, but you just have five still trying to defend a line. But it's the middle of the line that felt to me that was constantly being broken and vulnerable. So I'm not sure if it's just about tracking back.
The second half, you were expecting Wrexham to come out all guns blazing, and they didn't. TNS continued to pile on the pressure, even to the point where just 2 minutes into the second half, a TNS corner straight to Gibbs, and pretty much just bundle it in. There was no headers, there was no clearance, there was nothing. It went straight to it in the middle of a bunch of players, 2 yards off the line, and it just went straight in. Massively disappointing. Yes, please, Matt.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I've just it was lost in the highlights. So if anybody's watched the highlights, you wouldn't have seen this. But Wrexham dealt with the free kick prior to the corner really unconventional. Well, quite unconventionally, and it annoyed me being in the stadium, and it then doubly annoyed me when they scored from the corner. But they had a free kick from our right hand side, about 30 odd yards out, and for some reason, Wrexham decided to allow Wrexham players to mark the post as if they were scared of the shot. And that invited a load of their attackers, obviously, deep into our box, which meant we couldn't, normally you try and play almost like an offside, don't you? But you don't play the offside, you then drop deep once the ball's kicked. But we didn't. We invited all this pressure. And I found it a really weird thing to do from where the ball was. And it must be something they're trying, because there was no arguments from the sideline to say you shouldn't be doing that, or now that's not the time, or it's too far out. I found it really weird how we dealt with it, and then obviously subsequently, I say, they scored from the corner, and I just that was my soapbox moment. I'm sorry, that really not my go.
But that's fascinating, because that would feed into. So the guys give me a hard time because I have a go at goalkeepers, and I don't have a go at goalkeepers.
Do you?
I have an issue with the stature of certain players, and certainly goalkeepers it's a huge advantage if you're taller, and the number of goalkeepers in this division are not tall at all.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
So if you're thinking that the goal size is exactly the same as it is for all, whether it's under 16s right through to Premier League, Champions League, it's the same goal size. I can see why maybe marking the goal is that you're going, well, our goalkeeper doesn't have the capacity to get those shots, that if they're just inside the post, in the corners, top bins, wherever we're thinking. I think they're trying to make the goal smaller to give the goalkeeper a chance.
Get that.
But the theory then is, of course, exactly as you've alluded to. You are then playing everybody on side all the time, and it's not an effective system. But if your goalkeeper needs that help, I can see why they're doing it, and the same with crosses, the same with corners. It's a vulnerable part, and I still don't understand why every team isn't trying to pop them in the top bins all the time, because the goalkeepers are never going to reach them. And the high-scoring games in this league, I think, are contributed because you feel prices for Cardiff or anybody like that, they'll have a shot, they'll have a go, they'll just
absolutely
keep, and if you can't reach it, the goalkeepers don't stand a chance. And this is me not having a go at any one specific goalkeeper. I think it's just the nature of the stature of the players that they're choosing, or who wish to play, or they can find to play in this league, which I think might be more of the answer, to be honest.
So if you are a female goalkeeper, in the league, please send your box of dog poo to Daz James, care of. Sorry, mate, go on.
No, can I just? I absolutely agree that that's the theory, and if you sort of transport that to what we see in the men's game, they do this sometimes. But if you notice that defender, excuse me, he stands on a post, and then as players come in, he threatens to run out. Then doesn't he, to catch them offside? And you watch him playing this chicken and egg game as if, well, maybe I'm not going to stand here now and I'll run out. But there was none of that. We just sort of invited all these bodies into the box, and it was problematic. So hopefully maybe it's something they'll work on and get better at. But I was just there going, what are we doing here? Like, I could imagine myself being a forward going, yes, please, let's, throw it in the mixer. And obviously, it cost us in a game that it didn't matter in anyway. But
No, well, by that time, TNS were now 4-1 up. We did actually start then to have some chances. Wrexham started to press. Chances from Bartle, Lily Jones with a fantastic long-range shot, which was cracking. I mean, we've seen her score with those. Barker again, which I thought Barker was quite quiet this week compared to previous weeks. I don't know whether she was struggling or what. I don't know. But the deficit was too large.
I've got a theory on that.
Please do. Yeah, go.
I don't want to be annoying. I know you're looking. Daz is looking at me with daggers. I think saying, "Shut up, lad."
No. I'm keen to hear it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was in the ground, and I'm not saying that you can't see things on the telly, but it's not necessarily as easy because they tend to follow the ball rather than what it's like in a ground. You can see everything, can't you? So I thought Jenny Sugarman, in her interview post-game, I don't know if you saw it or you didn't, referred to a tweak in the shape. And I thought she asked Katie Barker to hug the touchline. And I didn't think she was involved in the game as much, or wasn't as effective, maybe, as when she sort of plays 10 yards in and her and Maz playing that, literally like what the men have been doing almost with Windass and O'Brien at the weekend. Now, obviously, Jenny sees her in training, so maybe normally she does, but TNS seemed to be able to deal with her out wide more effectively than the games I'd seen her where she was 10 yards inside and got involved a little bit more. So that would have been if I was a journalist, I'd have loved to be able to ask that question and say, did you purposefully do that? Was it tactical, or was that just her trying to sort a problem out herself and she got dragged out there because it appeared less effective to me?
Yeah, no.
Sorry
to interrupt. Right. No. Don't worry about it. The thing is, by this point, the game was over 4-1. And the one bright shining part was Neve Adams had come on for a debut, scored a fantastic goal, first goal. From a point of view of looking forwards, Daz, great player to bring off the bench and superb.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if that's what you've got to look forward to, what a strike. What a strike! So, clearly not phased. Was her debut. So, I think there's a lot to be excited about. But there were passages of play. There were some wasteful attempts. When you're that close to goal, there was you're skying it and missing the target is it's your bread and butter. You've got to hit the target. There was too much waste really in those efforts, but it did seem to be a little bit more. I suppose that TNS can afford to be a little bit more relaxed about it, but I just thought there was a little bit more impotence in their play. I think they were finding the space, they were finding each other better. The surface, I know it's an all-weather pitch and stuff like that. The surface is pretty slick and quick. You can't fault that, so you should be able to play it quicker. It's positive in that sense, but there was. I think it just felt wasteful, and you can't afford that. But clearly, TNS. People said TNS were more up for it than Wrexham. I mean, anybody that gets beaten by Aberystwyth is always going to be ready for the next game. Do you know what I mean? I just, they were riled, and I'm sorry. That's on us. That's on.
Yeah, it's your fault. It's all your fault, Daz. Wrexham do finish the week third in the table. 2 questions, one for Matt, one for Daz. Matt. There was only one change, Nat Clark. As you say, there was a little tweak in formation. Was that enough to make... Because this is such a different performance compared to the 2 previous performances we've seen. Was that all it was that made the difference? I mean, football can be like that, kind of. You can make tiny changes and it can make a huge difference. Do you think that was the reason, or was just having an off day in the office?
No. Do you know what I said to my other half when we were in the car on the way home? The game reminded me of the men's game at Shrewsbury last year when we lost. Was it 1-0? When we lost away?
Yeah.
We were far superior a team, but obviously lost the game and never got. It's like we never got off the bus. I wonder whether they were. Dare I say these words? Maybe there was too much on it for them. Maybe they were a bit too excited about the game and just never got a grip of it. Because I understand what you're saying, whoever it was that made the point about not competing. I think like they wouldn't have set out not to compete, would they? So I just wonder whether they built it. They'd seen it as this massive chance to make a statement early in the season, and it just hadn't happened for them. Had it? I don't think one or two little tweaks or changes would have made too much of a difference to them. In all honesty, I think they probably cared about it too much and just played the occasion rather than playing the game.
Tuesday, and Wrexham had another game in the Carabao Cup round 3 against Reading. Starting 11, Parky did his usual. We were umming saying last week, is he going to do a mass change? Is he not going to do a mass change? Of course, he changed virtually the entire side, just leaving Doyle in from the start versus Norwich, seeing as Doyle had only played 45 minutes. Matt, were you surprised that he did a complete change? Because we are getting to that point now where you're going, we last 16. We're getting close to last 8. You know, at what point do we start thinking, right, we better put our best players in? And I use that loosely because they're all great players.
Yeah. No, I think it maybe if he thought it was going to be, if we were playing a championship side, perhaps, and he wanted to progress, then maybe he wouldn't have made so many changes. He obviously felt that a lot of these players have got sort of good League One experience at worst. I'm thinking about like George Thomason and like Barnett and stuff. So he obviously felt he had enough. I think if it was a stronger side that we were playing, maybe he'd have tweaked it and some of the others might have started. But no, it was no great surprise for me.
I mean, there were some interesting things. Obviously, Burton coming in for a Concoin goal. Brunt was playing on the right, which, you know, obviously normally Max Clearwater. And normally we've seen Brunt on the left, so that was quite interesting. Yeah. Scar, obviously, and Doyle now playing on that left. Barney, obviously, and McLean playing the wings as usual. And then we still had that kind of same format, didn't we, Matt, of three, with Broadhead playing alongside, Smith and Lee in kind of almost a front three with the two in midfield, which was great to see. As with the women's game on Sunday, there was a minute's silence in memory of the Gresford Colliery disaster. Does that mean Derby County's game won't be, Max? Normally they normally try and pick a Saturday, don't they?
Yeah, it's made me look a fool this week because when I did when I did a video, I think for Patreon, I'd said, probably on Saturday we're going to have our colliery remembrance game, and obviously we've done it on Tuesday, it would appear. So yes. I'm going to assume not, but yes. Yeah, let's see.
I suppose it's the closest game to the actual anniversary, which makes sense. And again, on both the women's game, and I was really, really pleased with TNS because they didn't have to do that. You know, it's at their ground. They are closer than most clubs. They're only kind of 13, 14 miles away from Gresford, but they didn't have to, but they did. Impeccably marked. And again, at the men's game on the Tuesday night, again, impeccably marked by both sets of supporters. So that was absolutely great from that point of view. As I said, there was that kind of slightly tweaked setup now we saw from Saturday with the three up front. Wrexham started very solid, but very, very little up front for that first half. Reading threatened, but like Wrexham, there wasn't very much major threat up front. The main bit for me in that first half was the Sam Smith volley chance where he tried to replicate his wonder goal from the end of last season. Doyle hit the post as well for Reading. So their Doyle, because they had a Doyle as well as our Doyle. So their Doyle hit the post for Reading. So both sides kind of had their chances. I mean, Matt, from your side, did you kind of think, this is a bit tighter than I'd like it to be, or did you think, Wrexham are just biding their time, and I'm not worried in any way, shape, or form?
No, so I went into when you get the mass changes, in my head, the first half is a bit of a write-off, because you've thrown these 11 players together that haven't played games together very much, and we're expecting them then to turn it on and be wonderful, and that invariably doesn't happen, does it? So I always expect the first half to be disjointed, and it was. But I thought Reading were excellent, by the way, in that first half. I know they've dominated possession, but which doesn't tell you the whole story. I appreciate that. But they were really progressive. Their passing was crisp. They had a lot of academy players in, I believe, as well. Yep. So I was really impressed with Reading in the first half. But I think we allowed them to be. So one of the keys to the Norwich game was that our front three really pressed their back line and tried to win the ball high up the pitch. Whereas we didn't do that. We kind of reverted back to the normal Wrexham where we sit back in shape and let teams come at us. And I think we caused our own problems in the first half. And I was worried at half-time because Broadhead wasn't in the game. Thomason was on the edges of it. And it's a second half. We'll talk about the second half maybe in a minute, where he looked really good. And I was just a bit like, there was not many of these lads made an impression in the first half, and you thought, he should start on Saturday.
It's always the danger, isn't it? Who is, and it's a question I've got for you later, is in who do you think has made their mark? But we'll come to that question a bit later on. Second half, a lot better, a lot more threatening, I think. It's interesting on the graphic I've got here that came from the BBC that they said Sam Smith scored the second one. I thought Nathan Broadhead scored the second one with a glancing header. Am I wrong?
I think it says Broadhead. Sorry, it says Broadhead double in most of the news headlines I read.
Yeah. Do you know something
Well,
I
you
don't, Matt?
can answer this question, but I will. For the benefit of your listeners, I've done it frame by frame.
Yes.
Which it sounds sad, this does, but you just have to just
Go
humour
with
me,
it.
right? This is the time. This is how I spend my life, sadly, right? So I've done it frame by frame, and the initial header hits the bar, comes down, doesn't go over the line. It actually then hits a defender, and at that point, in the next couple of seconds, does cross the line. And then sometime after that, like within a second or two, Sam Smith comes and makes sure it's over the line and bundles it in. I was under the impression that would have probably got, if there was a dodgy goals panel, it might have got own goal on it. But the defenders don't want it to be an own goal. I don't know if that panel even meets anymore. So maybe they just go, oh, it's in because Broadhead's header was on target. But it hit the bar, and so how is that? I didn't know what I mean. So it's a mess. But I would just give it Broadhead and let's go.
The only question I've got is if you look back at the highlights, and I'd have to check exactly when he does this, but the referee holds his hand up and taps his watch, which says, and that's history because that's the first time Wrexham have been awarded a goal using goal line technology at the racecourse. First time ever. So he does that. It's when he does that. Does he do that after the initial Broadhead header where it hit the bar and bounced down? Or did he do it after it was already kind of scrambled in? We don't know. I'm gonna follow the BBC and we'll give it to Smith, but it doesn't really matter.
He's trying to claim it on social media, hasn't he? And they've all been giving him stick.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, there you go.
On Instagram, he's tried to claim it, and they're all in his mentions going, have a rest, lad, you know.
He's done a Rosie Hughes. He's run off in the opposite direction, pretending he scored it. Anyway, second half, Wrexham much stronger, really threatening. Reading started to really go off the boil a little bit, where they, we really started to put the pressure on. 57 minutes, again, great move for this, and it's important to mention Wrexham corner by Thomason. Almost went straight in. He called it, and he did it twice. He did it on two different corners where it curled in, and it was only the fact that the keeper was kind of pushing it away from the top bar that kind of kept it out. And it was initially cleared out for a throw-in. Really quick thinking by our Doyle to throw it back in to Broadhead. Broadhead to Lee. Lee attempted to have a shot, but was closed down by two players. The rebound to Broadhead. Broadhead then brought it inside, and then we've seen it so many times for both Ipswich, for when he was playing for Cymru, all these times, just beautiful curling shot into the goal. Daz, how great is it to finally see Broadhead get that monkey off his back with being Wrexham's record signing, blah 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 blah. We know he's a great player. We know he's that player that can make the difference because we've seen it. How great is it? He's finally managed to get to show it.
Yeah, I think every striker, any move, doesn't matter if it's a big money or not. I mean, the fact that he's a record signing is arbitrary in many ways, but of course the press will want to make a thing of it. The key thing is he's moved to a new club. He wants to impress. He wants to make the fans appreciate him, because it's all about the goal scoring. And so it's great for us from our point of view. We're really pleased for him because of course we've seen him do it for Cymru. We know what he's got the potential to do. I mean, I still think he's got still plenty of, I don't think he's shown it for Cymru as much, but that's because he's not getting the game time. He comes on as an impact player at the end or as a closer or whatever, or it doesn't feel like he's had a fair run. So going to a club like Wrexham, I was optimistic that we'd get to see a bit more of what Ipswich have been seeing for a long time. He's not had the minutes, to be fair, but to be able to do this, and relatively early as well. I mean, admittedly, it's the cup. I'm sure that people say, "Oh, it's just the cup," but it was a good. It doesn't matter, and it was a good. It was a good finish. Good finish, and like you said, it was it was his quick thinking, finding that space that unlocked all of that sequence as
Mm.
well. So you can't even say, that it was a bit fortunate.
He was involved in the play, wasn't he? He took the ball off the quick throw in. Great for Doyle as well to have that forethought, thinking, well, I can see Broadhead there. Let's get it to him quick, because
but you
Reading
saw
defence was
Broadhead
set
move.
up.
It was Broadhead's movement, though, that drew the attention. He got the reaction quickly enough from Doyle, like you said, but it was finding that space, and then Lee following it up. And Lee could have potentially done a little bit better. We've seen Lee, do better with those situations. But the fact
Lee of
that
the past, maybe not Lee presently, unfortunately, I don't think. But Lee of the past, certainly, from that point of view. Matt, do you think this unlock is because Broadhead is playing on the left side of a front three? Because as he's been playing before, and I know he's not had minutes, but he's almost been stuck in that kind of midfield, which is not his role, and he's looked a bit lost. We've seen him play for Ipswich, and we've seen him play for Cymru, just as that left-sided front player coming in from that side. Do you think that's helping him?
I suspect it is. I think that was a glimpse of his future for Wrexham. In one of those two roles with Windass probably behind Kiefer Moore, given freedom to wander outside or inside, whatever he wants to do. And he's clearly a decent finisher, as we know, isn't he? And I agree that he would have been a bit more comfortable there than what he's been asked to do before. Not to say he can't become good at that in the future, being one man behind a Kiefer Moore maybe, but I think when he likes to feel that touchline. I think he gets his bearings, that you get a natural feel for where you are on the pitch. So yeah, I think that was a glimpse into his Wrexham future. That was yesterday. And can I just echo what Daz has said about sorry to go over all ground.
No.
The movement from the throw in is fundamental, because what he's doing is he's dragging their defense back as well. So everything that happens post is helped by the fact that you've had a player willing to run, into the corner, and the defense, obviously, because he can't be offside from a throw in, the defense have to follow him to deal with it. And it opens the pitch up a little bit. And normally the area it opens up is just around the edge of the 18-yard box. And give or take a few yards, that's kind of where he picks the ball up, where he sort of scores. So he stretches the pitch a little bit, you see, so he helps himself by that initial run. So I think you were spot on with that observation that it was key, Daz.
Well, Wrexham continued to pile on the pressure. Reading didn't seem to have any answers, going 1-0 down. Eddie Lee came close. Again, Lee of old probably would have put a couple of these chances in. Currently, I think he's fighting for scraps, unfortunately, to try and get some game time. 70 minutes, though. Barnett cross from the right. Header from Broadhead, as you rightly said, onto the post, down. May looked to have crossed the line. Bit of a scramble between keeper and defence. In comes Smith, just to make sure, bundles it over. I see the ref do that, because initially, as Smith ran off, I think he got quite cross because he thought he'd called offside or he'd called a foul or something, because you could see Smith kind of reacted as if the goal had been cancelled. But then suddenly it all came to life, and Wrexham were 2-0 up. And that was pretty much it. I think Reading didn't have any answers. Even there was a little bit of squeaky bum towards the end where Callum Burton, managed to make a very important save from that point of view. Didn't really gather it, so kind of almost scooped it out, from that point of view. But got to ask you, Matt, about Callum Burton. Didn't have to do very much, but what he did do, I thought, was quite effective. He commanded the box, he closed down, he was a physical presence. A couple of times I heard him shouting. If you were Arthur Conquo, would you be worried, thinking, well, maybe I'm not number one at Wrexham right now?
How's the best way to answer that? Burton,
see, Daz, I've made you dodge this bullet. You can thank me for that.
Don't worry, I'm going to throw it to Daz in a minute. Don't worry, I've got you covered. So I really like Callum Burton. I think he's good at everything. Whereas Arthur is an exceptional shot stopper, and then there's question marks over one or two of the other things, and you can make of that what you personally decide, can't you?
And let's not forget, Callum Burton has come from this level. He was at Plymouth when they were in the Championship, so he's come from this level, hasn't he?
I get that, I get that. The difficult part is we don't see him in training, do we? So we don't see them every day. So like every day he could be letting things through his hands that we just don't know about. And maybe in Phil Parkinson's head, it's much clearer than what we have the benefit of. But from what we see on a game day, I wouldn't be unhappy if at some point Callum Burton had to start. I wouldn't be throwing my toys out the pram going, this is a disaster. What are we thinking? Phil Parkinson must have gone mad. But on the flip side, I understand why Arthur's excellent shot stopping, and he must be one of the best in this league at it. Well, I say this league, obviously we were playing League Cup last night, but in the Championship, he's one of the best at it. So I understand why Phil Parkinson seems to have him as his first choice, but I understand why some people are in the background questioning that. And I'm not sure if you see him in training and you would put him in, wouldn't you, if you thought so? I think Phil Parkinson would put him in if he thought he was better. And I think Arthur will he be worried? I think he should be worried. If he isn't worried, we've not got the right backup goalkeeper. Because you want somebody who's going to be putting him under pressure, don't you? And I think Burton's a really good all-round goalkeeper, and I think we're very lucky to have a third-choice goalkeeper of his calibre.
So Wrexham win 2-0 into the fourth round for the first time since 1977. Again, considering Parky is such a rubbish manager, according to everybody, and can't deal with things at this level, he continues to create new records. First time Wrexham in the fourth round since 1977. Only the fourth time in our 161-year history. First time ever 3 Welsh clubs are in the fourth round as well, with Cardiff and Swansea both making it through. So I'm sitting there on the bus, on the replacement bus last night, getting all excited, thinking, oh, here we go, Tottenham, Liverpool, Newcastle. Oh, I can't wait. And what's our reward? Cardiff. Cardiff. Of all teams.
Can I just say, I've got a message here from a Mr. Robert Clark.
I got one this morning.
Did you? Okay.
He just went, he went, yes, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. And I just went, F word.
No,
that's all
no, but the point he was making is that, it's the biggest club in Wales against Wrexham. And
whoa.
I was going to say, if I was.
Well, no, but he had a point. He had a point. The thing is, Cardiff is still the biggest club. They are a big club, but clearly not. But they're not performing like a big club at the moment. So Wrexham have got a bit more work to do on the ground and the setup and everything like that, and they could join. I would say Swansea are the most consistently big club because they've been in the Premiership for longer. They've been in the Championship for longer. They haven't dropped down to League One, so they are holding that status at the moment. But Cardiff, historically, the size, the following, the capital city, everything about it, big club. They're just being horribly managed, but that's an exciting draw, really, for certainly the neutrals. As neutral fans go. I know you did.
You might not have noticed that I'm not a neutral. That's the problem.
No, I know. That's why I'm smiling. That's why I'm smiling. Going, this is going to be a great game.
I said to Matt before we started recording, I was happy to go into the last 16, take a big Premier League club, either at the racecourse or ideally at one of the big club grounds, and bow out gracefully, saying, yes, we're one of the top 16 teams in this competition this year. I'm very pleased with that, considering there are 96 who started. Great, nice one. Thank you very much. Little payday. Nice football. Loved it. Now we've got to win. We have to win. We can't lose to Cardiff. I can't lose to Cardiff. I've seen this too many times over my history. I've got too many friends who live in Cardiff who will just give me absolute grief. Mr. Clark being one of them. Matt, disappointed or excited by this draw?
So I think I'm in the minority, and I'm tremendously excited by this game. I know everybody wanted a Premier League. There was this, didn't we have a 73% chance of getting a Premier League side?
Yes, I mean, literally, it would have been easier for us to play somebody who wasn't even in the last 15 with us. Hit one of them rather than hit a Premiership cloud. I was so was furious.
I know. I'm the opposite. I know you're jesting a little bit, but I'm tremendously. I think this is a brilliant game. I think that this will be televised. I think it's going to be sensational to have this.
Yeah.
You know, I've been really looking forward to playing Swansea again. I like the local games that we've had with, obviously, and we've not seen Chester for a long time, but Shrewsbury, those games I've really been looking forward to. I went to the turf this morning, and Wayne was there making egg butties, and he was really excited as well. I think it's going to be a brilliant. I said to you off camera, I said I wanted anybody at home. I didn't really want Gillingham or Wickham because didn't excite me at all. Everything else I was really looking forward to. So I'm over the moon with this person.
Or Grimsby. Didn't want Grimsby either. I mean, it's looking like, Matt.
That's what I meant.
It's probably going to make this played on Tuesday the 28th because we've got Middlesbrough on the Saturday. We've got Coventry at home on the Friday. So it's really the only date we could push it in. So we've got a nasty set of fixtures around it. Cardiff, on the other hand, they've got a league game on the Saturday, and then they haven't got any game on the Saturday after, and then they play a FL Trophy group game. So they can chuck out their full strength 11 quite easily.
Do you remember those FA Trophy games? Those are the days for you guys.
Yeah, those are the days. I remember those for the lower league teams. You mean? Yeah, I remember those days.
The under-21s from City
exactly.
Or somewhere like
exactly, something like that.
You got to remember where you are, and I think.
I know, but this goes beyond that now. Of all the teams, Swansea and Cardiff are the two I didn't want. I wanted them to draw each other because then I'm thinking that's fine. You two go off and do your thing, beat the living daylights out of each other. That's fine. And just let us take on. I'd love to have gone to Tottenham Stadium. Or why couldn't we have gone to Anfield? Or why couldn't we have gone to play Newcastle? You know, one of a proper night out. No, we're going to be at home to a bunch of sister shaggers who are going to basically just give us absolute grief for 90 minutes and possibly do the job on us and get through to the quarterfinals. We've seen it, Daz. Come on, I nearly broke your telly in the FA Cup in '97 when I threw a boot out the Chesterfield game. We were watching it at your telly, and I nearly broke it because I got so angry. That's what I don't want. You know, we got to that quarterfinals. We pulled Chesterfield of all people. We're thinking Chesterfield, no problem, we'll take them. And what happens? They score a crappy goal right near the end. I know. I'm getting irate for no reason.
Come back down. No, I get it. But it's going to be an interesting measure because you've got a team that's high flying in League One, and you've got a team that so struggling to begin with, but seem to have shown some signs of improvement in the Championship. So it'll be quite an interesting leveler. But then, of course, add to that absolute, I'm not going to say derby because I know Jamie hates that, but it's a rivalry in terms of Welsh national rivalry. The history there, the fact that you passed each other on the way, there's something quite glorious about it. And yeah, as a neutral in that sense, of course, I live in Cardiff. I had a season ticket for Cardiff for 1 year. I took my son there for a bit. I have an affinity to it. I don't follow them every week. I don't watch them every week. All of that for sure. I now have a bit more of an affinity with Wrexham thanks to a certain thing we do once a week, and so there is something quite exciting for me to see these two teams that I genuinely look out for. If I'm looking at scores at the weekend, it's always going to be obviously Wrexham.
I do, Jess. The one bonus for this, Matt, if there is a bonus to be had, which there is, a Welsh team will be guaranteed to be in the quarterfinals. That's great.
I want to ask you a question. You talk about it as if we're going to lose this game, but if Wrexham win this game, how do you think you're going to feel on that night compared to? And again, I guess I'm going to make an assumption here that maybe is unfair. Like if we would have gone to a Premier League side, in reality, we would have more than likely we would have lost. Right? It's not impossible that we would have won, is it? But more than likely, especially if it was away, more than likely. I actually think you're going to be dancing around either the I don't know whether you're going to be at the ground, either the mice going afterwards or your front room. As I said,
mate, I was happy to bow out at round 4 against the Premiership team. I was happy to do that because we proved our point by that point, And when you come up against Newcastle, Liverpool, and Arsenal, you only have to watch them and go, yeah, even at our very, 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 very best, we are going to have to pull out the most incredible performance to be able to take these teams on.
Yeah.
Because their squad is so much more expensive than ours is. And I will be delighted if we beat Cardiff, but the problem is
when?
that the problem. Sorry, when we beat Cardiff, but the problem is that there is a massive needle on this game, and I have just lived through too many examples of times where we've gone, well, it's blah, and we are at a higher level than they are, and we are at home and we have many advantages, and we slip up on a banana skin. I've seen, and it's the hope that kills. And of all the teams, like Newport, my vitriol for Newport, you're very aware of, because I worked a lot with Newport fans, and all I got was grief when we were in non-league. It's the same with Cardiff, because for many years you had the pat on the head, or never mind, maybe one day you'll actually get a professional football team. There is that, don't get me wrong. I will be the happiest guy in South Wales if we manage to beat Cardiff. I just wish it wasn't in the fourth round of the EFL Cup. I'd do it in the league, because in the league you're kind of going, well, okay, fine, I'll take it. But that the bragging rights then will be, because we are trying to become the best football team in Wales. We are already trying to compete with Swansea. Now, if Cardiff beat us in the Cup, that's their bragging rights to say, well, if you're the best team in Wales, how come you couldn't beat us, a lowly League One side? Just saying.
I get all that. But think about all those years where you wanted the chance to prove the point, and we couldn't, because we were leagues apart and we were so unlikely to have to play them in the Cup.
I'd rather have played them last season, though, when Cardiff were crap. The problem is they're fairly decent now. They've actually to be fair, Barry Murphy, their manager, is a really, really good manager. He has marshaled those troops. He's doing a cracking job, and he's taken some players, like if you take Joel Colwell as a perfect example, he was lost last year. You look at him, totally lost, couldn't get anywhere near the Welsh squad or whatever. This season, he's playing out of his skin, absolutely out of his skin, to the point where you're going, yeah, if somebody sees him in January from the Championship, they'll snap him. There's no way Cardiff will be able to hold on to him. He's playing at that level now. And that's been brought out by the new manager and what he's doing with the side, and even when they are, because they took on Stockport and they were 1-0 down to Stockport, they still managed to get that league equaliser and get points from it. They've got that battling thing about them. That's a dangerous Cardiff for me. The ones that last year were rolling over and, couldn't do anything, that's the Cardiff I'd want to play in the Cup, but I don't think that's the Cardiff we're going to see, because they are going to be very, very up for this game on a Tuesday night at the Kairos, to say the least.
But so will we. And just remember, how long is it till that game? Is it how many weeks are we away?
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Near Dad's birthday.
So 4 weeks' time, this Wrexham side will have settled down. They'll have played together a lot more. I think we'll see a different Wrexham, and you might feel very different about it that week compared to what you do now.
I'll feel different about it when that final whistle goes and we're 5-0 up. That's when I'll feel different about it.
There you go. Josh Wind has to score hat-trick. You'll be doing roly-polies down the Crispin Lane.
Just remind him to keep his shirt on, though. That's all I recommend.
Oh, definitely, yes. Yes, that was silly. That was very, very silly. But, kids. Now, the Emo Chips podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Wrexham and Cymru football news. First up, Wrexham Academy under-18s played away at Lincoln City under-18s on Saturday and lost 4-2. Wrexham goals scored by Damon Almeida and Rio Owen. The next game is home to Grimsby Town under-18s on Saturday, 27th of September. Wrexham finished the week 5th in the table, 7 points behind Grimsby, so we'll be playing the league leaders this Saturday. Matt, we've not kind of got your take on the academy, because I've heard Daz's and Jamie's take, and I know my take. I mean, again, nothing announced about an academy manager, nothing announced about a lead coach. Now Nick Chadwick is gone. Wrexham are starting to stumble with their results. They've gone from kind of winning fairly decently to draws to now this kind of heavy loss against Lincoln City. Are we worried that the academy are going to start to fade unless Wrexham put some decent people in at the top? I'm not talking about Phil Jones. Don't say Phil Jones in front of Dad, because he'll just get upset.
Yeah, I was concerned at the point where we entered this phase with like no leadership, which was weeks ago now, wasn't it?
Yep.
It concerned me then, given the amount of work that's going on with other things as well at the club. It's a bit like, oh, what's going on. So yeah, I think obviously things might be happening. It's just that we don't know about them. So this is the big caveat, isn't it? They could announce they could be an update on the website tomorrow, and all the positions might be filled. But apart from the Phil Jones thing, there's not a lot of chat, is there? That's the thing that concerns me. There's no names being rumored. There's no leaks of such and such is in talks. So that's what makes me a bit concerned. But then when you see one or two results go off the rail, you start to question everything. Then, don't you? It makes it feel worse. I think we're right to, even if you get like the most senior person in, let's get somebody in that makes it look like there is some leadership and something's going on. I don't think your concerns are unwarranted.
A fair bit of movement on the new COP this week. Liam Randall from Fearless and Devotion podcast, and also obviously a journalist in his own right, has noticed there was a filing in Companies House, which basically is just the council putting in a marker with regards to the community funding for the COP, making sure that they have some rights of answer because you're protecting public money. There has been some preparatory work in groundwork this week, and then Wrexham have announced today that McLaren Construction Midlands and North have been included under a pre-construction services agreement for the development of the COP stand. Obviously, so a PCSA, and I deal with PCSAs on a regular basis, it's basically a small contract to come and clear the ground and make it ready for the major construction to start. It doesn't mean that they get the contract for the major construction, although it's possible that that's going to happen, because normally it does. It's kind of your way to see how good a constructor the company is. And with McLaren, they will have worked with Populous in the past, who are the architects on other constructions. So probably Populous would have recommended them, I would think. But the PCSA is a very, very light agreement with regards to site clearing and a bit of digging and road work and all those kind of things. But they prepare the site from a health and safety point of view before the kind of the major stuff. But it doesn't mean that anything's actually been cleared from a planning point of view. It doesn't mean that all the kind of work with regards to, I know there was the talk about the groves and storing materials there, and then that was thrown away. So they're obviously looking for a site nearby where they're going to be able to do that. And that's going to be very interesting because that's going to be quite difficult. All the stuff about the residential parking has not been sorted because Wrexham was sent away basically saying you need to come up with a scheme before we'll agree to anything. And as far as I'm aware, Wrexham haven't agreed to the scheme. This is all good news, Matt, because we're moving like a tortoise in the hare, moving forward very, very slowly. The worrying thing in the statement that Wrexham put out is this sentence. The full build programme is scheduled for completion during the 26-27 season. So that means the COP is not going to be finished by the end of this season. Shocked, surprised, or do you know what? I could have told you that before this came out.
Not disappointed that we finally got to that point. Not shocked. There was lots of chat and rumor, wasn't there, that it was going to be late to some degree. I'd heard everything, in that general chat when you're in the concourses and stuff. I'd heard everything from 12 weeks to 12 months. As of how that it was going to be late. So that's, to me, I wasn't shocked, just a little bit disappointed. I also should add that somebody told me there's no movement on the lease either yet. With the WST. So I don't know, just
it's all just very, very, very slow. And every time a deadline comes up, it just disappears and you kind of get no. And unfortunately, as somebody who's involved in large building projects, these things happen. I mean, the PCSA is also a chance for McLaren to basically, they'll lead on the design and actually take the design from Populous and turn it into something that is realistic, i.e. an engineering point of view. But they'll be going out for tendering. So they'll be saying to companies, right, this is what we want to build. How much is it going to cost? That takes between 4 and 6 months to get those prices back. because obviously everything has to be within budget. Because what happens is you go through the process, the people come back and say, and you normally tender to at least three companies, 3 sets of contractors and companies, and you say, how much is it going to cost? And they all come back with different prices. And then you look at your budget and you go, right, okay, so we're going to have to value engineer it because our budget is X and you've come in 10% over that, so we need to skim 10% off that. How are we going to do that? Oh, we can do this, we can do that. Slight changes to design. This is a long process, and the fact that the PCSA has only just been agreed, strictly speaking, the PCSA should have been agreed at the beginning of the year. And I think personally, from my experience, that's how far behind we are. I say we're at least 8 or 9 months behind where we would expect to be if we were aiming to finish. And even then, if we'd have done the PCSA in January, to expect to finish next summer, I think is still tight for us for something this size.
So
unfortunately for the fans, Matt. Yeah, for the fans, I'm just going to say, for the fans, not good news from a ticket point of view, because it means that all the nonsense that we're going through at the moment is just going to be extended.
Yeah, that was my point. There was, I think we've probably got another 18 months worth at least of balloting issues, haven't we? That's what it feels like from the outside when you listen to people like yourself who've got a little bit of experience with the timings that these things happen and the amount of work that sometimes then happens off the back of it. It feels to me like the ballot is going to get all the chat around it is going to get very strained again very soon. But I should what I didn't add a minute ago was when you said shocked or surprised. Obviously, Sean Harvey did that interview with the Fearless Boys, and during that he ran a mile from the question about the cop. I don't know if you noticed. He said, "Oh no, I'm not going to answer that. I'll leave that to Michael Williamson's next update," rather than just saying, "No, everything's on track." Exactly what we've said to you before. We're confident that we'll be able to deliver it on time. And I think that was the point where I went, yeah, this is definitely there's definitely a delay on this. So yeah, no surprise. And I think it's going to get fun, isn't it? This ballot, because people are going to get even more heated about it the longer it goes on.
I think the only thing is, I don't think there's any surprise about these, because having witnessed and been part of a project waiting for the results, I'm not in that industry. I know these things take forever, the scale of it. The only thing that surprised me is that they removed the temporary cop as early as they did, if none of this had been in place, because that feels a little bit folly, and I don't know what happened there.
Was that,
I mean, they could have left. They did it. They took it down. They took part of it down certainly for the pitch, to get access to the pitch. But they could have taken half of it down quite easily, I think. Did that for access for the pitch and then put it back up again. Because you could have kept it in there till... Because this proprietary work now is going to go on probably for the next 4 to 5 weeks, which will push us towards the end of October, beginning of November. So you could have left the temporary cup up until at least the end of October quite easily. And you would at least have had 3,500 extra tickets for the first third of the season or whatever. I think Wrexham were, by the feels of it, Wrexham were hopeful that everything was going to sort itself out, and didn't realise actually it doesn't help when you change the design at the 11th hour as well. That's not going to help, because you've got to go back to the beginning. It's like a rubbish game of snakes and ladders. They hit a massive snake by changing the design, which means you've got to go back to start. So yeah, it's a bit daft, but nothing we can do. Just if you are looking for tickets, expect more pain, and if you live locally to the racecourse, expect a lot of pain, because there's going to be increased amount of traffic. And
the flip side is that these are positive. Sorry to interrupt. These are positive signs that stuff is happening.
As I say, it is a tortoise that is moving slowly, moving forward very slowly, but at least it's moving forward, and it's not just going to sit there like Port Vale have had a temporary stand for years and years and years, haven't they? From what I remember, and there are others. Mansfield
as well.
For such a long time, So yeah, at least things are moving forward, to say the least. Wrexham AFC boss Phil Parkinson will join Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney as a free man of the Wrexham County Borough after a unanimous vote by Wrexham Council, according to the Wrexham leader. The honour will be bestowed upon Parkinson after he became the first manager in the history of the EFL to secure 3 successive promotions back to back, as it's become known. With the Reds boss in attendance, Wrexham councillors backed the awarding of the Freedom of the County Borough, which will formally be presented to Parkinson at a later date. We all know that football is the beating heart of Wrexham, said Wrexham Council leader, Councillor Mark Pritchard, addressing the full council on Wednesday. It's in our blood. It's part of who we are. We're here to talk about someone who's achieved incredible things in the world of football, Mr. Phil Parkinson Parkinson. Despite being immensely talented, Phil is a modest and unassuming man who just gets on with the job. His impact here in Wrexham has been huge. Lifelong Wrexham fan, Deputy Leader Council Dave Bithell seconded the proposal on behalf of the council. After the honour was confirmed, Parkinson expressed his gratitude to councillors. When me and my family came to Wrexham just over 4 years ago, we were embraced by the club, the city, and most importantly, the local community. The documentary TV series has taken the club and the city of Wrexham to a global audience, and I think everyone will agree that what has made it so unique and such a success is the special people here that make up the community. I'm very proud and honoured to play a part of the rise of the club on the pitch, supported by my family, my coaching team, backroom staff, and all the players past and present. So Matt, Phil Parkinson can take his sheep and drive them across Kevin Abaid Bridge, probably. Although that's in Denbighshire, isn't it? Or Flintshire or wherever it is. Gwersel Bridge. There we are. That flyover outside the old MFM studios, the old March Sound studios. That flyover. Yeah. He can send his sheep over there, which is fine. Totally deserve this, though, isn't it? Totally and utterly. And why hasn't it been done earlier? Is my question.
Obviously I can't answer why it hasn't, but the important thing is that they've got to it. And I think the fundamental thing to remember is, regardless of what you think about Phil Parkinson, the manager, and his coaching and how he plays football or how he sets his team up, at the heart of it is just a very down-to-earth person that moved to the area because he wanted to be connected to what was happening. Yeah, he didn't not living 2 hours away like some, or more like some people do. He invested in his time in I still call it a town, so forgive me. He invested his time in the town, and then has delivered success, regardless of how you think he attained that, whether it was with money or what. We all know you can't guarantee success with money. We've all seen it. And I think you think about how humble he is. There's no airs and graces about him, is there? So I think this is a really nice thing for Phil Parkinson to be able to look back on now. In the days coming up, and probably 10 years down the line when he's long retired and he's contemplating his days in football. I think it's fabulous.
I can't wait till they rename it the Phil Parkinson Wrexham Baths, because that beautiful curved building. It's the most unusual. Now the police station's been blown up. It's the most unusual building in Wrexham. So
it is. Does this mean he can shoot an Englishman with a crossbow before midnight as well? By the way,
just do that anyway. You don't have to be in the Freeman.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I need to be careful then, don't I?
Wipe down the hot box glass and scrape the pea juice off the door. It's time for the chip shop. As Jamie's away this week, Matt has stepped in with his golden scoop to help Daz get the crispy bits from the bottom. Let's look at the chip shop table from last week. As Daz rightly said, the fact that we all predicted a win, a draw, or a loss meant that somebody made a difference. And unfortunately for me and Daz, it was Jamie, because Jamie correctly predicted that Wrexham were going to win against Norwich. Daz predicted the draw. I predicted Norwich to beat us. We did the deal, so that means he got the point. The other two couldn't even get close to the Wrexham result because we didn't get that, and we all predicted Reading were going to win. Daz was the closest. I imagine you were probably praying after that second goal for Wrexham and thinking, "Come on, Reading, let's get a consolation goal, shall we?" Because you were majorly close from that point of view.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, I was looking through my notes, and I did put, I think I said, didn't I?
2-0, you did.
2-0, and I went for the wrong one. So I'm really kicking myself on that one. So
never mind. Anyway, so first into the fryer tonight, it's Derby County. One of the historically big clubs for me in British football, mainly because of who they've had manager-wise in their past and everything else. Derby County have spent the majority of the century in the Championship. Last year, they finished 19th in the league with 13 wins, 11 draws, 22 losses, goal difference of -8, and 50 points, only 1 point off the relegation zone. In fact, I remember that they were, at one point, they were in the bottom three, and they just managed to scrape themselves out. Transfer news this summer, they spent £8.5 million. Main buy, in fact, only one of two buys, is Patrick Angumang from Charlotte in the MLS for £6 million, and Max Johnson from Sturm Graz with just over £2 million. Apart from that, that was it. The rest were all free transfers or loan deals that were coming back. Derby are currently 22nd in the league with 1 win, 2 draws, 3 losses, goal difference of -4 and 5 points. Their last 5 league results: a 5-3 loss at home to Coventry City, a 1-1 draw at home to Bristol City, a 2-2 draw away at Ipswich Town, a 1-0 win away at West Brom, and a 1-0 loss at home to Preston North End. Derby and Wrexham head-to-head have met 9 times in our history. Wrexham 1-2, drew 2, lost 5. We last met, not in the league, but in the FA Cup in January 2007, round 3, where Derby won 3-1. Wrexham goal scorer on that day, great player, Matt, Lee McEverley. Remember him? What a great player he was. Yeah, fantastic. And the chips are done. So, Matt, Derby County, bit on their uppers right now. We've got a bit of a bounce, seeing as we've, come off that Norwich game. We're at home. We finally won at home, all right, not in the league, but in the cup. Are you kind of a bit more positive about what's going to happen on Saturday compared to last week?
I am, but that draw that they got at Ipswich does concern me, because Ipswich scored a 106th minute penalty in that game to get an equaliser. So they can, I know, so they can be a problem. My understanding is that they're, because obviously I've spoken to somebody this week, so I've got a bit of insight. They are quite defensive first half of games. Will come out a little bit more in the second half. I think they're going to be very difficult to break down on Saturday.
So I'm going to ask a question for the both of you. Over this week, we've pretty much seen 21 of the 25 non-under 21 players. Have any of the guys from Tuesday who played, do you think, bought themselves a starting spot for Saturday compared to the ones we had versus Norwich? Daz, I'll ask you to go first.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I'd like to see Broadhead, and also, make it into the team, but only that's a completely different reason. But no, I think it'll be pretty similar to the Norwich game, I think.
I mean, Matt, the fact that he played a very similar formation on both games means he's prepping players. So it's not as if he played new formation Saturday back to old, 5-3-1-1 or 5-3-2. So those players could. Can you see anybody from Tuesday elbowing their way in for somebody else?
I think there's one player in the second half he stood out more. It's probably not who you're thinking, Daz. It was Lewis Brunt at the back. I think there's a shout that Lewis Brunt might take that left spot off Callum Doyle. I'm bearing in mind he pulled him at half-time for an unknown reason. I still don't know why he pulled him. I just wonder whether that's the one. I think the Broadhead one that Daz is referring to is a fitness thing. It's whether he thinks he can play that for 60 or 70 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just Brunt. I just wonder whether because he was so good in that second half, he was so dominant. I just wonder whether he might fancy him on the left.
I mean, again, Parky does have to be careful, doesn't he, Matt? Because players like Hyam, Sheaf, Doyle, they haven't had brilliant pre-seasons. They haven't had a lot of minutes. You can't flog them to death from the off. You've got to try and introduce them slowly. Do you think he may look at that and go, okay, well, we're at home. So again, at home, we should be a little bit safer. We're playing Derby County, who are not kind of we would consider to be the high flyers in the league currently. Is that going to, do you think, cloud his judgment to go, well, I'm not going to play I mean, don't get me wrong. I, like you, didn't see the players live at Norwich last week. I'd love to see Kabore live on Saturday. I'd love to see Hyam live. I'd love to see Sheaf live, and actually see them in the flesh. But is he going to be more cautious and go, let's not go mad. Let's mix it and match it a bit?
Isn't that the conversation we had slightly different circumstances with QPR, though. We just got all these new players in. Granted, they'd been on internationals or whatever, and we were like, "Oh, does he throw them in or doesn't he?" And he basically told us he couldn't because they weren't match ready. So it's a similar thing. I think there's elements of it that are the same. I just think I think there'll only be one or two spots that he might, just depending on injury. Maybe somebody's had a knock that we don't know still. There's always that element, isn't there? But I think it will be. He'll know that this lot are going to come and sit back. So I think we're going to see quite an attacking lineup again.
So, time for the salt, vinegar and sauce cork. Well, although Jamie's not with us in reality, he has managed to send his predictions via carrier pigeon. Jamie, what's your prediction for Wrexham versus Derby County?
Hello, Cocknose and Daz, and hello everybody listening. I'm sorry I'm not with you in person this week, although I'm sure some of you are quite relieved by that. But I am in the process of moving house, workload through the roof, and borderline having a heart attack at the same time. But I'm giving my ship shop predictions for you. So before I do Derby County, just one very quick thing, because I'm not on the pod this week. Just in reference to the Norwich win last weekend, I think it's fair that I should credit where credit's due to Parky. I've been a little bit critical and questioning the tactical flexibility in recent weeks, and in fair play to him, there was a variation and something a bit different in that Norwich game, and we came away from a very difficult place with a very, very good win. So credit where credit's due. Hopefully we can kick on from here now. So obviously first up is Derby County. When I had a look at their season so far, they've been very sort of Jekyll and Hyde, but mainly poor. We need to try and make the Kairos a fortress again. This was supposed to be the first home game I was going to get to this season, but again, I've had to concede because of everything that's going on, so I won't be there again, unfortunately. But we do need to try and get the Kairos back to a fortress. I'm confident, after the Norwich win, but then I said this against QPR and look what happened there, but I am confident with the boys doing the job, so I'm going to go for a 3-0 Wrexham win.
Can't believe he says he's wrong and I can't take the piss out of him for it. That's terrible. So bloody awful. Nice one, Jamie. So Jamie says 3-1. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Derby County?
Sorry, did he say 3-1 or 3-0?
3-0, sorry, 3-0 he said. 3-0.
No, I was going to say, I'm sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. 3-0. God, he's very confident, isn't he?
He is. He's not here to answer it for, is he? Plus, he's top of the league, mate, so what can you do?
No, I know, but that's luck, isn't it, more than anything? He's guessing. Right, you know what I'm going to do?
We're not. Is that what you're saying?
Hey, I have been one goal out each of those two. Okay, anyway, I don't know. Right, just because it might boil his piss a little bit, I'm going to go for 1-0.
Excellent. Some things never change. And I'm going Wrexham 2, Derby County 1. I think it's not going to be a pasting, but I think Wrexham will have enough to take on Derby County. I'm like Jamie. I just want to see a performance. I want to see a performance on Saturday. We've got the confidence back now from the game versus Reading. And yes, it's Reading, and you can only play what's in front of you. Bing! Put that on your bingo card. But we just need a performance, and I think 2-1 will be enough. Matt, you're not in the league, but we'll happily take your prediction. What's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Derby County?
I'm not confident we'll keep a clean sheet. I don't think it's going to be a particularly amazing game. I would have gone 2-1 to Wrexham with a late goal.
2-1 was my other result.
So if it is 2-1 now, you're going to be even more gutted, aren't you?
I know.
You're going to be even more gutted. I know, absolutely. Well, let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And next is the flyer tonight. It's Pontypridd United Women. So Wrexham Women take on Pontypridd United Women. Not at the Rock. And Matt, you absolutely called it correctly, because you said on your pod last night, I've not heard anything, but I would doubt it very much. And guess what? It's not. It's actually going to be played at the Globe, which is Buckley Town's ground. Have you ever been there?
No. I mean, I've been to Buckley. I've been to the Tivoli in Buckley, but that's about as good a thing.
That's where I've been. I was going to say.
Well, as long as they shoo the cows off and put the barbed wire back, it'll be fine.
Yeah,
no, I'm joking. It's not as bad as you. It's not as bad as you think. It's not brilliant, but it's. I mean, things must be quite bad at the Rock. The fact that they've not. I mean, I've heard probably the same as you that actually the work is more extensive than they originally envisaged, and then that's why it's taking longer. So I think it's a classic used car salesman thing, isn't it? Put a bit of rust filler and some paint over it, sell it for 5 times the price it's worth, and then when you get it home you realize it's only got 3 wheels and 2 doors, and you wonder why it's not running properly. So yeah, it's possible. Yeah, so we were at the Globe in Buckley on Saturday the 28th. Buckley's about 6 miles, because somebody said, what, they're playing in London, the Globe in London? Yeah, that's a theatre. That's not. It's not a football ground. It's about 6 miles outside Wrexham, Buckley, towards the English border. So yeah, playing on Sunday, 28th of September, kick-off 2 p.m. Pontypridd obviously were relegated from the Gynero Adran in 2024. Last year, they were in the Gynero Adran South. They won that league with 9 wins and 3 losses, and then they beat Conisky Nomads 3-2 in the playoffs to get back to the Premier League. So far this season, as Daz intimated earlier, they've lost 2 games and had that game versus Swansea abandoned, but they were losing that one as well before it was abandoned due to weather. So they're currently 7th in the league on goal difference. Last time Wrexham and Pontypridd met was only last season in the semi-finals of the Bute Energy Welsh Cup, where Wrexham won 4-0. And the chips are done. So Daz, Pontypridd United, very much starting as we kind of expected them to be, struggling. Wrexham obviously had that kind of bit of a shock last week against TNS, but before that had responded very, very well. They are going to be playing on a ground that they're not used to because they've not played on the Globe. Are you expecting kind of Wrexham to have that kind of a response that you would like to see? I.e., we were a little bit embarrassed last week, so let's put that to the sword.
Yeah, I suppose my initial thoughts on this was before the announcement today about the Globe and stuff. So I don't know enough about that ground. I don't know if it's an all-weather pitch. Is it a ploughed field? I have no idea what state the condition.
It's a car park outside the Asdas. That's what it is. No,
okay. And so people are bringing jumpers for the
jumpers for goalposts. Yeah,
and,
definitely.
Okay. Well,
bring your own chair, everybody.
I mean, I genuinely think that the gulf in the two clubs initially was going to be, substantial anyway. I thought perhaps playing at the Rock, that would have given them that home advantage, familiarity, or even at the Kairas, either, just somewhere of that ilk, they would just be able to perform. I don't know enough about the Globe, so that's probably if there's anything such as a leveler in this situation, that might be it. But I think Pontypridd's performances recently, with the fact that they were pretty, it's not been a good start. I mean, by all accounts, Aberystwyth deserved the win that they got first game of the season. They were losing against Swansea, like you said, and it wasn't gonna, it wasn't looking good. And then it was Bryn Ferry last weekend. I can't remember what it was. Bryn Ferry, wasn't it?
TNS last week.
No. For Pontypridd now. I mean,
for Pontypridd, yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes.
So and again, they're not the big mover and shaker this year's, so far. So it doesn't bode well that the Pontypridd side are particularly struggling, and it doesn't have any indicators to suggest that it's going to get any better for them. I don't think so.
No. Let me bring this in for a second. So that's the Globe right there. I don't know if you can see that. That's what the Globe's like.
Okay.
Very, very similar to Bryn Ferry, although it's not sloped from that point of view.
And that's a pile of jumpers there at the front, yeah?
It is, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's somebody's Zimmer frame in the foreground, I think. Anyway.
Okay.
So, I mean, they do serve, according to the website, they serve food, and there is parking and disabled access for toilets, etc. So, it's not a disaster from that point of view. Matt, you said, and I think you're right, there's a little bit of tinkering going on. Jenny Sugarman, obviously, she's a brand new manager. She's still trying to find a feat with regard to these players and the best way to play them. Do you kind of think, okay, she'll stop tinkering and go back to the stuff where she knows she's winning, or do you think she'll carry on with a little bit of experimentation?
No, my limited experience in management tells me that you probably carry on tinkering for a little bit, to be honest, given how new she is to the Wrexham players. That said, I think what Pontypridd are averaging conceding 3 goals, playing away from home. I know technically it's away for both sides, but I really fancy Wrexham to bounce back with a bit of sting after last week. And given the fact, the flashes of great performance we have seen from Wrexham, we just need to see a good 90-minute spell now. And I think this might be the game. This might be the perfect bounce back game for them, because even if they're not at top fettle, they might still be able to score 2, 3, or 4 goals. Insert your guess here for your score prediction.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce cork. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham Women versus Pontypridd United Women?
I've forgotten about that last game, the game in the Cup last year, I must admit. I've written 4-0. Then you told me it was 4-0 for that game they played last in the Cup. They lost 4-0 against Britain Ferry. I just feel it's got 4 written all over it, so I'm going for 4-0.
2 Wrexham, I'm taking, not to Pontypridd.
No, yes. Okay.
Fine. Again, from his remote toilet somewhere between Chester and Connors Quay, Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham Women versus Pontypridd United Women?
Hello again, boys. Me again. So next up, I think, is Pontypridd for the ladies. On Sunday, disappointing last week. I didn't see the game, unfortunately, but yeah, I'm sure they would have been disappointed with that. I'm sure you guys have featured it and reviewed it very well, and I'm sure Daz has spent a good few minutes having a go at the goalkeepers, no doubt. But yeah, they'll be disappointed with that. But look, you just got to dust themselves off. They've shown this season that they've got some quality in there. So again, looking at Pontypridd, they've not had the best of starts to the season, and with Wrexham being at home, again, I'm looking for an emphatic win and a rebound to last week's poor result. So I'm going to go for a 4-0 Wrexham win. I
didn't know he was going to say 4-0 because I didn't know. I've not watched any of these, so I didn't know he was going to say 4-0. So yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, Daz. I'm predicting Wrexham Women 3, Pontypridd United Women 1. I think Wrexham will win. I think they'll score some goals. I don't think they'll keep the goals out. I still think they've got problems at the back that they need to fix. I mean, I know last week versus TNS isn't a perfect kind of example of that, but there are mistakes that are creeping in and both the previous matches, and I just think they're still ironing those out. So I think it'll be 3-1. Matt, what do you think? Are you going to the Globe on Sunday?
I'll be there. I'm going to go to the Globe. I'll be able to do some coaching from the sideline, and Wrexham are going to have a comprehensive 5-1 win.
Whoa, big scores there from Matt. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And last into the fryer tonight, it's Leicester City. Leicester City were in the Championship from 2004 to 2014, then they got promoted to the Premier League, and they became English champions, as in Premier League winners, in 2016. After 10 years at the top level, last season they were relegated back to the Championship. Transfers so far, they've sold over £56 million worth of players in the summer, but not spent 1 penny on any new players. FFP, anybody? Because that's all that says to me. It says to me they're in massive trouble, FFP. If you've got to sell £56 million of the players, there's a big problem. Asmir Begovic from Everton on a free transfer. Aaron Ramsey, not that one, Daz, from Burnley. Jordan James, obviously, from Stade Rennais, which I was really gutted that he went on loan to them because I really wanted him at Wrexham. And Julia Carenza from Feyenoord, all on loan, no purchases at all. This season, though, currently 4th, 3 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. Goal difference of +3, 11 points, 5 points off the top. So far this season, 2-1 loss away at Preston North End, 1-0 win away at Charlton Athletic, 2-0 win at home to Birmingham City, 2-2 draw away at Oxford United, and a 0-0 draw at home to Coventry City. Wrexham's head-to-head, 8 times we've met. That's more than I thought we would, to be honest. 1-1, drawn 3, lost 4. Our last meeting, Got to go way back for old farts like me. 20th of April, 1982 at this equivalent level, where we drew 0-0. And the chips are done. So, Matt, midweek game, after a hard game versus Derby, after a hard week we've had, going obviously to Leicester as well, come down from the Premiership. They sell £56 million of the players and are still fourth in the Championship. What are you expecting?
Fourth at the moment, asterisk, points deduction
Yes.
pending.
Yes.
Let's just add that. And I think we also need a bit of context around the game in that we go from Tuesday to Leicester away, we go to Friday at home to Birmingham. So there's quite a lot when you think about it. There's possibly some juggling around of players that Parky might have to do. Don't get me wrong. I think that I've seen flashes of brilliance from Leicester this season. But they're clearly not a free-flowing side currently. But it's early, I understand that. But they've still got some big players, some big names. Obviously, they stole Jordan James off us. That was, as you said, that rankles a little bit.
Got him,
Let's not talk about the medical that was scheduled that he didn't turn up for. So I think we're in for a tough game. I'm going. I've got tickets for that. I am going. It's a 2:00 bus, I think.
I've got a ticket as well. I've just got to try and work out the logistics of actually being able to get up there. So I know.
Come on, I'll see you there. Come on, nice shiny stadium.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to go. It was on my bucket list. Absolutely. I've just got to make it work. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad we got the win and we've got some bounce into this game because obviously there's going to be spells in this game where we're going to be seriously tested. I think some of the pace they've got out wide is exceptional. So I know I'm really looking forward to it and I'm positive. And I'm not. It's going to sound weird without predicting results yet. I won't get overly down if we don't come out of this with a positive result. I think this is one of those games where you are playing a good side. I know their form is patchy, but they are a good side.
Daz, you've probably seen a bit more of Leicester than we have because obviously them being in the Premiership. I mean, I don't know how they played against Liverpool. I mean, are you kind of thinking, yeah, this is a big test for Wrexham?
Well, like you said, they've sold a lot of their players, so they whether it's preparing themselves for some financial situations that they've already got, or do a Liverpool and just bank the points up now and then splurge it all next year when they get back in the Prem. I do see them being a successful team this year. I do see them being contenders for going up, as we've all predicted. So this is a tough test, but like I say, they're not the whole team that they were last year. So but fourth in the league, it doesn't matter how many points they're going to likely to predict. Ultimately, they've still managed to win at least. They've won 3 games so far out of the 6. So they're doing okay. They're doing okay. But it's still early days this season. I mean, it is us predicting. The fact that half the teams have scored, won at least 2. You've won 2. So they've only won 1 more game than you. So it's not as if there's runaway leaders. I mean, Middlesbrough is the one team I suppose that's looking impressive, but Leicester's there for the taking. I think it's going to be close. I do think. I think Matt's point about having some wind in the sails for Wrexham is key. Getting those results, whether it was emphatic wins and maybe not trying to, be careful not to concede late goals and give away silly goals as well. I think that's the difference. So no, I think this could be quite a close match, but I'm still probably going to edge towards a Leicester result though, because I think the table does suggest a little bit of the gap between the two, and you'd think that with all of that Premiership money and the parachuting down and all of the things that's in place, they should still be the stronger team.
I mean, that's the thing that makes me laugh. They sell £56 million of the players, and they've still got parachute money. How much trouble must they be in? FFP must be incredible. So, time for the salt, vinegar, and sauce score. I'll go first on this one. I'm predicting Leicester City 2, Wrexham 0. I think it will be a loss. I don't think we're going to score. I think they're going to be very, very tight at the back, and I think we're going to struggle. I think we'll try and play our game, but we'll get snuffed out because I think they're looking, as you rightly say, on their wide players are just so strong. I think our defense is going to really struggle. I just hope we don't get battered. I don't want to see a 4-0 or a something like that. If we can keep it to 2-0, I would be more than happy with that, because we are testing ourselves, but it's a massively uneven playing field. We spent 30 million and we're not even scratching the surface compared to the money that Leicester have spent over the last 12 to 18 months. So, yeah, I think 2-0 from that point of view. Back to the errant flop red that is Jamie. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Leicester City versus Wrexham?
And finally, into the fryer this week is Welsh Techie. Leicester City away. Oosh. This is the sort of fixture we dreamed of, wasn't it? Getting to the Championship. I think again another one that when I knew we were in the Championship, was another one that I circled as wanting to try and get to, but with what's going on at the minute for me, and with it being a midweek as well, it's just out of the question. But I'm sure we'll take a good following, and I'm sure everybody that goes will have a great time. It looks a really good stadium I'd love to visit. Leicester look like they've turned things around a little bit in recent weeks. They had a bit of an iffy start, but they look to be finding some form now. I think they're up to 4th in the league as I'm recording this. As we've said a million times, always difficult predicting the second result or the second game after a weekend game without not knowing what's at the weekend. But this is obviously a difficult one, and I have to be honest, I was kind of on the fence between a draw or a loss, Wrexham loss. As confident as I was last week, because I was the only one of the three of us that predicted a Wrexham win away to Norwich. Just saying. I feel a draw or a Leicester win is the more realistic one here. But I'm gonna, it'll probably bite me in the arse as I go through the season, but I'm gonna back the lads, and I'm gonna go for a 1-1 draw. So yeah, there's my predictions for the week. Hopefully I will not die of a heart attack or a stroke or something like that this week, and I will be back next week to see you both and everybody listening. Take it easy.
He's a barrel of laughs this week, isn't he? Blimey.
I know. I mean, just know the tone and the mood. Why don't you?
I know. He's obviously not confident about his place in the league. So that's 1-1 for Jamie. Daz, what's your score prediction for Leicester City versus Wrexham?
Like I said, I think this is going to be a Leicester win. I think as much as they are historically the strong team, they've had their wobbles. Oxford have managed to peg them to a draw, which is, they've lost against Preston. They're just not firing. Although Birmingham, they did okay. It's a hard thing to predict. But I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to go for Leicester 2, Wrexham 1.
Matt, as the honorary guest, you can say whatever you want. You can call us all plastic fans, and you can say, how dare you not think that the mighty Wrexham can't take on Gary Lineker and his packet of crisps. So what's your prediction for Leicester City versus Wrexham?
In the Gary Lineker Arena, is that where we play? Is that where they play? Or the Walker's Crisps Arena, whatever it is.
Definitely. The Salt and Vinegar Shake. That's what they play.
No, I favour Leicester in this game for some reason. I'm just going my gut. My gut's telling me Leicester are going to win this game 2-1 or 3-1. Let's hope it's 2-1 rather than 3-1. But it could be either. If I was in your comp and I was being pinned down, I think sat here tonight, I would go 3-1 Leicester. Sadly,
yeah, I don't.
I know. You just get that gut feeling, don't you? And I'm like,
the thing is, as you rightly said, you see, if Parky's look at this, he's going, right, we've got Birmingham in 3 days' time. I'm going to keep my powder dry on this because chances are we're not going to get a result out of this, but we've got a better chance of getting a result out of Birmingham at home. So you keep your powder dry and you go, yeah, let's front load ourselves. Let's accept that we're probably going to lose this one because we're going to have to put some of our less forward players or our less prominent players, but keep them in reserve for Friday because we need to, because that's a possible tie we can get some results from. That's the thing. But yeah,
I think that's a fan theory. I don't think Phil Parkinson.
I know. Yeah, he wants to win it. Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah. Every game. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm, and we'll be discussing all 3 of these games in next week's pod. So there it is. Next week, we'll look back at the Wrexham games versus Derby County and Leicester City, plus Wrexham Women taking on Pontypridd United, and look forward to our first Friday night game at home under the lights as we renew our acquaintance with Birmingham City. And obviously, Wrexham Women travel to the Swansea.com stadium to play Swansea City Women, which again will be a barrel of laughs, I'm sure. Our thanks, my thanks, personal thanks go to Matt, who's done a fantastic job standing in for Jamie this week. Matt, please tell everyone where they can find you, or everything to do with your pod, yourself and Richie and all your other guests. Please tell everybody where they can find you.
No, you'll be pleased to know that the tone will be raised next week when Jamie returns. I'll
probably say the word wanker more. That's for sure, definitely.
No, just whatever social media you use, look for Racecourse Ramble. I try and post on everything. It's really difficult now. There's so many different forms of social media. It's really hard. But yeah, you can obviously YouTube and stuff. You'll find us there. Where we're there a couple of times a week. Normally the night before a game at the weekend with Che Long, who obviously used to do the Dragon Art stuff. And then me and Richie on a Wednesday, or me and somebody. And if you want extra Wrexham content and just a little bit more in your working week when all the other podcasts aren't filling you up, then go on Patreon and just look for Racecourse Ramble, because there might be something there that takes your eye when you have a look at it.
It's worth it. Trust me. I am. I'll happily say that I'm a Patreon member.
You're overly generous. That's what I will say.
No, not at all. As I say, your reviews of your game, when you actually do a play-by-play review of the game, which is a good 30 minutes, it's just exactly the same stuff you would imagine Wrexham staff to be going with their players, going, see what you did here. You should have been there. You should have done that. Why weren't you there? What's going on by there? It's a full analysis of the game. With warts and all, which is really, you don't find that is nowhere else. Nobody else is doing that. It's completely unique, so it's definitely worth that from that point of view. Obviously, I wouldn't do this without our stalwart. And for once, Daz, it's not you who's swinging your lead somewhere else. It's Jamie. So yeah, but thank you very much.
You're welcome, and yes, looking forward to Jamie coming back next week.
We all are. Obviously, he will be. I'm sure about 5 stone lighter and hopefully a bit happier than the video clips we've seen tonight. I think I'm going to have to send him a message after this saying, "You all right?" Obviously,
I was thinking the same. I was actually thinking the same thing.
I know he's massively busy at the moment, bless him. And I've said to him, "Look, I've got a Polaroid. I can come and take some pictures if you." But he's not interested. Funny enough. Please let us know by obviously the usual channels, whether it be on social media, YouTube, by email, eatmorechipspodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. We obviously always welcome your comments, your questions, your remarks. Not so much if you call me an idiot, or somebody said to me in a DM a few weeks ago, "You're not a comedian, stop trying to be one." Yeah, that hurt right there. That one right there. That one. But you're welcome to your opinion, even though it's horseshit. So yeah, that wasn't me being funny. But obviously, we welcome all your comments and questions seriously. So please, do send them in. And obviously, with it being such a busy week for the town, come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
Clinton, 1-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Norwich cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back to back to back promotions. Can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast!